Upon entering a Cultivation novel game, I became an NPC in the starter village. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Ordinary. Mushroom Village. At the entrance of the village, Yunxi sat on the grass in a daze. Smoke was rising next to her. This was a signal. It was time for the farmers to go home for dinner. She looked at the only road at the entrance of the village. Uncle San would pass by soon, and then Grandpa San. Almost at the moment when this thought came to her mind, Uncle San came from the opposite side of the road and walked past the entrance of the village with a smile. Looking at his back, she began to count silently, 1, 2, 3. When she counted to 5, sure enough, she saw Grandpa San. Without thinking too much, she knew clearly who would pass by next. First, Aunt Wang would come from the left side of the road, then Grandma Li would walk in the middle of the road with a basket, and then Uncle Li would carry a hoe. What? Do you think she can predict the future? Of course not. The reason why she knew so clearly was that when these people passed by, every day at the same time, they walked in exactly the same way every time, and even said the same words. Sometimes she felt that they were like robots, which was creepy. Maybe a child can't see anything strange, but she is not really 5 years old. Probably because she didn't drink mangpo soup in her previous life, she had the memory of her previous life since she was born. At first, she just thought she had traveled to an ordinary ancient time, but since her mother asked her to go out to play, she realized that something was wrong. Unfortunately, she still couldn't figure out what was going on. Yunxi returned home in deep thought. Before she entered the door, a faint fragrance floated out. "Mom, what delicious food did you make today?" she said casually. Of course, needless to say, it must be brown rice, a fried cabbage, and a fried egg. Before she was 1 year old, she drank milk every day. After she was 1 year old, her meals became the above 3. 3 meals a day, year after year, never changed. In fact, the dishes cooked by her mother are particularly delicious, but no matter how delicious the food is, eating it for 4 years in a row, anyone can't stand it. It's not that she didn't think about getting some other food, but there was only cabbage planted in the yard, and there was no meat for sale in the village. Her mother didn't agree to let her go out of the village to find food, so she could only endure it. Yunxi sighed secretly, and her steps became heavy unconsciously. However, even if she moved slowly, the whole room was so small, and she still reached the dining table. However, as soon as she raised her head, she was stunned. There was a man next to her mother. A man. She was so shocked that her jaw dropped. For 5 years, not even a woman had come into their house, let alone a man suddenly coming. Looking at the strange and tall back, Yunxi was stunned for a while. Is her mother looking for a second spring? Yes, she is 5 years old, and except for when she was just born, she vaguely saw the trace of her father. Thinking of this, Yunxi turned her head to look at the man. He had deep eyebrows and half of his face was covered by a beard. His skin was wheat-colored, and his muscles were strong and powerful. He looked very healthy. She nodded secretly. Yes. In order to take good care of his mother, he first needs to have a good physique, and then he needs to see what his character is like. Just when she was about to chat with a man and ask some questions, the man spoke first. "Zir, you're back." Yunxi was stunned, feeling a little touched and a little unhappy. Every time she talked to others, no matter what she said, others would say the same few words, but this man actually took the initiative to call her Zir. It was incredible. For a moment, she even felt like she had returned to modern times and was chatting with someone. But he was too familiar, wasn't he? He called her Zir the first time they met. He was really shameless. "Hello, uncle. May I ask who you are?" "I'm your dad." "Zir, have you forgotten? Dad held you in his arms when you were a child." The man looked surprised. Yunxi was so shocked that her jaw dropped. Dad, for 5 years, Dad had basically never appeared, and she had never heard her mother mention him. She once guessed that Dad had either had an accident or divorced her mother. So she never dared to ask her mother about her father, so as not to poke the wound. Who knew that she would suddenly see the missing person now? So she was so surprised to know that her father was back. "You are 5 years old now, and you have to start learning. Dad will naturally come back to teach you well." As soon as these words came out, Yunxi's hand holding the dish paused. That's right. It is said that children in the village will start to learn things from their fathers when they are 5 years old. If the family is farming, they will learn farming. If the family is a doctor, they will learn medical skills. If the family is a blacksmith, they will learn blacksmithing. Since she is 5 years old, it is no exception. However, I have never heard my mother say what my father does. Dad, what are you going to teach me? Probably farming too. After all, there are the most farmers in the village. Our Lu family, our ancestors have been hunters. Hunter. Yunxi was stunned. She has never seen a hunter in the village. Could it be that her father is the only hunter in the village? But soon, she didn't bother to think about whether it was the only problem. She remembered that the children in the village had to spend a lot of time learning skills every day after the age of 5, and they didn't have much time to play. Would she be like the children in the village and never see anyone again after the age of 5? She, an ordinary girl. She just wanted to live a salted fish life. Yunxi still remembered her previous life. She was about to be promoted to vice president, but she died suddenly because of crazy overtime. Thinking that all the money she had saved with great effort was gone, she was completely sick. In order to prevent the same thing from happening again, she made up her mind when she was still a baby. In this life, she wanted to be a salted fish. Let 996 go away. In the early morning, the sky was slightly bright. Bang bang bang, knocking on the door sounded. Yunxi pulled up the quilt and tried to cover her ears. However, the room was so small that even with the quilt covered, the knocking on the door outside was still deafening. She stared straight at the ceiling of the bed, lying motionless, hoping that the noise outside would disappear on its own. However, after waiting for a long time, the knocking on the door outside not only did not stop, but became louder and louder. She held it in for a while, but she could no longer bear the deafening knocking on the door outside, kicked off the quilt and opened the door. Her father was standing outside the door, with a serious face. "Come and exercise with me, Yunxi." "What time is it now?" "According to modern time, it is only about 5:30 in the morning." "Dad, I want to wash my face first." The old man was unmoved, and directly pulled her to the yard and started the routine horse stance again. Chapter 2, Lack of Intelligence. Yunxi couldn't stand the life of getting up at 5:30 every day to train, and tried to resist. "Oh no. I can't hold it anymore. I want to go to the toilet. It's almost noon. I have to help Mom cook." "Dad, you don't have to watch me all the time. I can train well by myself." "Don't you have anything else to do? Don't you have to go hunting?" "Mom, I want to learn embroidery. Embroidery is really fun. I want to eat meat. Can Dad go get some meat for me?" "Mom is not in good health and needs some meat to supplement." Yunxi tried her best to find excuses, but her parents were unmoved. She really doubted that even if the sky collapsed and the earth broke, they would still let her train as usual. They were like a machine with a set program, following the set plan meticulously, such as what to do at a certain age and time. That night, she was really suffocating, so she sneaked out to get some fresh air. The Lu family's house was at the end of the village, with a mountain on one side and their neighbor, the Li family, on the other side. When you go to relax in the village, you must pass by the Li family. Every time you pass by during the day, Grandma Li and Li Daya always stand at the door of their house, but now that night has fallen, they are still standing at the door. Grandma Li is old, and Daya is the same age as her. Aren't they tired standing at the door all day? Yunxi, who was originally going to the center of the village, paused and turned to walk towards the door of the Li family. "Grandma Li, Daya, have you had dinner?" She smiled and greeted the two. Grandma Li smiled kindly. "The clothes washed yesterday are not dry yet. Let's collect them tomorrow," Daya responded. "The game is really fun." Yunxi twitched her eyes. Every time she passed by here and asked them questions, they always replied with these two sentences. No matter what you said, they were like robots, repeating these two sentences non-stop. I thought they would say something different at night, but who knew it would still be these two sentences. She was a little discouraged at once, and lazily walked around the village and went home. But after a circle, she also discovered some interesting things. The behavior of the villagers is fixed, such as the farmer who goes out to farm every day, and Grandma Li and others who stand at the door every day. The farmer will go home to eat and sleep at night, but the people standing at the door will not. Of course, she can't be sure What if they go back to sleep when she is late at night? However, Yunxi is getting more and more confused about what is going on around her. They say that there are robots in the village, but she has also touched the hands of her parents and friends. No matter how you look at it, the villagers are just ordinary humans, right? Capital Star, First Game Company, Testing Department. The game cabin was opened, and the tester came out of it, still a little confused. How is it? Do you feel okay after entering? The recorder looked serious. It can be, but I found it not very interesting. This is a very euphemistic statement. What's not very interesting? It's just boring, okay. The recorder immediately picked up the pen and asked, what's boring? Many aspects. The tester tried to recall the situation in the game. The people in the game are too fake. Except for the most important NPCs, everyone else said the same thing. Some people even stayed up late at night and stood stupidly at the door. I almost scared myself to death. And for a whole month, the sky was clear every day, and even the wind direction was fixed every day. And, speaking of boring games, it can be said that everything is boring. He is a game tester and has played hundreds of games, if not thousands. To be honest, if this game didn't focus on the real life of ancient people, it would still be a little attractive, otherwise it would really have no competitiveness at all. The recorder frantically recorded, NPC activity routes are fixed, lack of intelligence, and the interaction is a little boring. The weather system has not been built. That afternoon, in the conference room, the recorder listed all the places that the testing department proposed to change one by one. The president sat at the top, and the managers of each department sat below with serious faces. Leave the weather system to our department. As soon as the recorder finished speaking, the manager of the R&D department immediately spoke up and took the simplest job. Anyway, even if he didn't ask, the president would assign the work to him later, so he might as well do an easy job himself. The president crossed his arms and said, the weather system is very simple, so let the R&D department do it. The planning department should find a way to make the NPCs more realistic. Every NPC must be the same as a real person. He tapped the table with his index finger. Don't forget, our game is all about reality. Everyone must have their own personality, characteristics, and past experiences. For example, there are so many novice villages in the game, and the village chief of each village must have a different personality. If everyone has the same personality, what fun is there in this game? The manager of the planning department smiled and nodded repeatedly, but he was complaining in his heart. This is too difficult. There are several continents in the entire game, and each continent has tens of millions of NPCs. There are only a few people in their planning department. How can they design a perfect identity for each NPC? His eyes turned, and suddenly an idea flashed, and he stared at the R&D manager next to him. That night, the planning manager spent a lot of money to treat the R&D manager to a rare meal in a 3-star hotel. 1 month later, the weather system of the R&D department was not yet completed, but a random system was made first. The random system inputs a large number of random personalities, characteristics, behavior patterns, past experiences, etc., and there will never be a situation where any two NPCs have exactly the same personality and experience. There are a lot of NPCs in the game. Except for the important NPCs that need to be designed by us personally, other ordinary NPCs can use this system, which is completely logically self-consistent. Once a bug appears, they will round up the wrong place by themselves. The R&D manager stood on the stage and talked freely. The planning manager secretly admired. Now their planning department has much less work to do. It seems that his treat was not in vain. Just when he was secretly happy, the R&D manager finally finished speaking. The president nodded. Now install the random system, and let the test department test it later to see if the people in the game are the same as real people. If there is no problem, then. Just when everyone was holding a morning meeting seriously. Game Intelligent Brain Control Room. The ball of light suspended in the middle suddenly flashed, and returned to normal after a few seconds. However, the employee in charge of monitoring the intelligent computer happened to yawn and missed this slight abnormality. Chapter 3 Sudden Change. When Yunxi went out for some fresh air that night, she passed by the Li family and greeted them out of habit. Grandma Li, Dia, good evening. Even though she knew there would be no response, it was her habit to greet the villagers. However, Yunxi, good evening, good, all good. Yunxi is such a good kid. Yunxi paused and stopped. What did you say? She widened her eyes and stared at the grandparents and grandchildren of the Li family. Could it be that Grandma Li and Daya were stolen by someone? The two looked at her strangely. We just said good evening. Yunxi, you are so weird. Can't you hear us talking? Daya looked at her in shock and shouted loudly. Yunxi was shocked. 5 years. Daya and Grandma Li, who had been like machines for 5 years, suddenly became like normal people. What on earth is going on? She nodded subconsciously, not noticing the strange looks of the Li family, and walked straight ahead. When she reached the center of the village, she suddenly came to her senses. Auntie, good evening, Yunxi, are you going out for a walk? The auntie smiled happily. Uncle, have you had dinner? You look so happy. Do you have any delicious dishes tonight? I ate. Hi. Where are the delicious dishes? Isn't it just cabbage? There's no oil at all. The uncle shook his head. After walking through the whole village, Yunxi's heart was pounding. Originally, she suspected that the grandparents and grandchildren of the Li family were kidnapped, but the whole village was like this. It can't be that the whole village was kidnapped. Although she didn't know why the villagers suddenly became like normal people, she was so happy that she wanted to fly when she thought that everyone around her would become normal in the future. Dad, I've been training for many days. When can I go hunting? Yunxi asked tentatively. Since the villagers are like normal people, it doesn't make sense that my parents are still stupid. It's still early. Dad smiled and shook his head. Your dad also learned for 5 years before I dared to go up the mountain. 5 years? Yunxi widened her eyes. 5 years? No, 5 years. Isn't that too long? I don't have to go up the mountain. Can't I just go for a walk outside the village? That's easy. As long as you can knock down a field mouse by yourself, you can go outside the village, but you can only look in the fields. You can't go up the mountain. Dad touched her head. And you can only beat field mice by yourself. You can't use medicine or traps. She was stunned. Field mice? The whole village hasn't seen a mouse. Okay. Yunxi thought for a while, and suddenly realized that field mice are not important at all. The important thing is that her father can actually talk to her. Yes. The people in the whole village are finally like normal people. Logically, Yunxi should be very happy. However, she was happy for only 2 days before she discovered a new problem. Yunxi, let's go play together? Come on. We are best friends. Daya blinked her big eyes and looked at her. In our village, the best cooks are from the Lu family. If you want to learn, you can ask her if she is willing to teach you. Few people in the village have eaten the food cooked by her mother. How do you know that her mother's food is the best? I won't play with Yunxi. You know that I have the worst relationship with him, huh? Didn't he stay with Yunxi every day before, standing under the tree at the entrance of the village? Why is the relationship bad now? Why did you find such a person? Hurry up and push off this marriage. That man looks decent, but he actually likes to beat people. That man used to stand under the tree every day counting ants. When did he have time to beat people? There are too many similar things. Gradually, Yunxi realized that something was wrong. Although the villagers became almost normal and no longer like machines, they suddenly had a lot of strange memories, inexplicable cognitions, etc. in their minds, and some people even had a big change in personality. For example, the whole village knew that I was her best friend, and they had played together since they were young. Yunxi just felt confused. Before, Daya stood at the door every day, and she didn't even stay with her. How could she become her best friend? But the whole village knew that they had a good relationship. For example, the children in the village originally learned skills from their fathers at the age of 5, and they were rarely seen. But since the villagers became like real people, the children only spent a little time studying every day, and the rest of the time they were out running wild. That's how it was. Because the whole village suddenly had some inexplicable consensus and strange settings. In order to prevent people from finding out that she had problems, she had to ask questions everywhere to find out her personality, preferences, interpersonal relationships, etc. In order to avoid herself not knowing what settings she suddenly had, in the afternoon, the sky was clear. Yunxi. Yunxi, an excited call came from afar. Yunxi came back to her senses from her thoughts, looked up, and found that it was Li, her best friend, Daya, who lived next door to her house. She rushed over like a wild horse, looked around furtively, and when she saw that no one was paying attention to them, she covered her mouth and whispered, Yunxi, do you know where Brother Yunxi went? Where did he go? He went to the fields. Daya's face was full of excitement and expectation. He is so amazing. No one in the village will let us go out. Everyone is curious about what it is like outside. Brothers Yunxi thought about it for 2 days and finally came up with a solution. Daya looked around and lowered her voice. Others went to attract the adults' attention, and then Brothers Yunxi sneaked out of the alley. He is so amazing. The adults didn't even know he went out. Yunxi looked at Daya's admiring look and began to think. Otherwise, she would also think of a way to sneak into the fields to take a look. She always felt that there was a secret in the fields. Otherwise, why did the adults resolutely not let them go? Brothers Yunxi is 9 years old, and he has never seen a farmland. If you don't know, you would think he is a child from a wealthy family in the city. In her previous life, she could help pick up some fallen ears of corn in the fields when she was 4 or 5 years old, and she could go to the fields to harvest when she was 9 years old. Mushroom Village is so weird. She was born in a farming family, but she has never even seen a field in her life. Is this reasonable? Yunxi walked around the village, checked the spots and went home. However, just after entering the door, a heart-wrenching scream came from the center of the village. Yunxi was startled. Something happened. She immediately picked up the bow and arrow and ran quickly in the direction of the sound. Before leaving, she said to her stunned mother, "Mom, you stay at home, I'll go see what's going on." Chapter 4 Mother Saves People. Yunxi was startled by the scream just now. She covered her chest and her heartbeat calmed down after a long time. When she reacted, her daughter had already run far away. She frowned uneasily, picked up the hem of her skirt and chased after her. On the other side, although Yunxi was small, her legs were very fast and she soon ran to the crowd gathered in the center of the village. Looking at the bloodstains, torn clothes and hideous wounds on the ground, she gasped. She took a closer look. Isn't this injured person the Brothers Yunxi who sneaked out? Was Brothers Yunxi really injured in the field? It looks like he poked a beast's nest. It's terrible. Were the fields so dangerous in ancient times? The villagers whispered. What happened? How could he be injured so badly? I heard that he ran out of the village on his own. Fortunately, he only went to the fields and did not run to the mountains. Otherwise, didn't we tell them not to leave the village? Alice. The injury is already very serious. Where is the doctor? Have you called the doctor? Not good. The doctor went up the mountain to collect herbs, and we don't know which mountain he went to. Upon hearing this, Yunxi's mother, who was kneeling beside Yunxi, suddenly had dim eyes and tears streaming down her face. Yunxi clenched a bow and arrow, with mixed emotions in her heart. If they had known this would happen, the villagers might as well have been like before, like machines. At least that way the children in the village wouldn't run around and wouldn't be in danger. Yunxi was chasing her daughter, and just ran to the center of the village. She happened to hear what the villagers said. She glanced at the wound on Yunxi's body and said hesitantly, I have learned a little medical skills before, Yunxi's mother, if you trust me. Before she finished speaking, Yunxi's mother held her hand tightly, nodded frantically, and said in a hoarse voice, I believe you. Please help me, even if in the end I won't blame you. Yunxi stepped forward to take Yunxi's pulse and wrote a prescription. Fortunately, the doctor's grandson was at home. Although he couldn't prescribe, he was very good at picking and decocting medicine. After drinking a bowl of medicine, combined with acupuncture and gold wound medicine, Yunxi's bleeding finally stopped. Yunxi looked at her mother calmly directing everyone, and couldn't help but be stunned. Mother actually knows medical skills. Yes. Recently, the villagers have many new settings and skills. It's not surprising that mother knows medical skills. At this time, she was a little fortunate. Fortunately, many people in the village have gained various skills, and mother just happens to know medical skills. Otherwise, Brothers Yunxi might really be hopeless at this time. A few days later, Yunxi visited Yunxi. Brothers Yunxi, did you sneak up the mountain? It's too dangerous. Don't do that next time. The wounds on his body were all scars from wild beasts, which made people feel scared. Of course not. How could I run up the mountain to die? Brothers Yunxi blushed, looking wronged. I just had a fight with a field mouse. What? Field mouse? Field mouse? Isn't it the creature she has been looking for many days? Dad said that as long as I can beat the field mouse, I can enter and exit the farmland at will in the future. No wonder I couldn't find the field mouse after searching the whole village. It turned out that they were all in the fields. Field mouse. It's too early for you to fight it now. You can't beat a field mouse now. I don't know what he remembered. Yunxi's face turned pale, and then he shook his head. If you want to fight a field mouse, you have to wait until you are at least 15 or 16 years old, then you will have a little chance of winning. Yunxi was shocked. Brother Yunxi is supposed to be the best fighter among their younger generation, but he was actually hurt by a small field mouse. Could it be that field mice in ancient times were particularly fierce? Or is it that field mice are actually a kind of fierce and huge beast? They are not the same creatures as field mice in previous lives? She pondered and found her father. Catch field mice? If you are ready, I will take you there. Dad glanced at her. Thinking of what Brother Yunxi said, Yunxi decided to ask the old man in the village for advice first. Hey, you found the right person. There are some rules for beating field mice. The old man looked around and whispered in her ear mysteriously, as long as you smear field mouse feces on your body, no matter how hard you beat it, the field mouse will not chase you. She laughed dryly. This sounds fake. Even if this is true, she is not willing to smear this thing on her body. After that, she asked other people. Unfortunately, she asked the whole village and didn't get any useful information. That's it. She just didn't believe that she couldn't knock down a field mouse with her IQ. Be careful. Her mother straightened her collar with a trace of worry in her eyes. If you are afraid, let your father take you back. No one in the village has ever succeeded in killing a field mouse the first time. The best ones have to go 4 or 5 times to succeed. Yunxi nodded, checked her equipment, and then walked to the village entrance with her father. Mushroom Village is surrounded by a yellow mud road that is 2 people wide. Only when you leave the village and cross this road can you really leave the village. Yunxi is the first one of this generation to cross this road. It is said that in every generation, the first person who dares to walk up is the most powerful person of the new generation. At this time, the entrance of the village was full of people. When they saw Yunxi and his daughter coming, their eyes shot over like searchlights, and they shouted loudly, "Do a good job and you can do it." As for the children in the village, they looked at her with envy. Yunxi is so amazing. She is the first one who dares to walk this road. She will definitely not be afraid when we fight voles later. What's that? I dare to walk too, huh? You are just boasting. If you have the guts, go over now. Aren't you afraid of voles? Yunxi twitched her eyes and felt like an animal in a zoo. She walked through the crowd, walked a few hundred meters, and quickly crossed the road. However, as soon as she stepped out of the road, her pupils shrank sharply. What's going on? There's only one road between them, but it seems like 2 different worlds. There has never been a mouse in the village, and the environment is mild and comfortable, but in this farmland, there are many voles running around. She did not use the wrong word, it was really a lot. Not just 1 or 2, there are 4 or 5 voles in an average field. They were running around in the fields. As if they were afraid that others would not see them, they were so arrogant. Dad, isn't anyone coming to kill the field mice? There's nothing we can do about it. We kill one, and soon a new field mouse will come out. Dad looked helpless, unless we can get rid of the field mouse king. But we can't find it. Chapter 5 This is impossible. Vole king, do voles have a king, too? That's right, most animals have kings, and voles have their own kings, which is normal, right? Yunxi observed for a while and found that the voles were basically the same size and had similar agility. She had no choice but to raise her bow and arrow and aim at the one closest to her. However, the voles kept moving around, making it very difficult to aim. She had to be patient. 1 minute, 2 minutes, a quarter of an hour passed. The sun gradually rose higher, and sweat kept dripping from her forehead. Just when her attention began to disperse, the opportunity came. With a fixed gaze, the arrow in her hand shot out quickly, shooting straight at the vole. The arrow brushed past the vole's leg, and a few drops of blood flowed into the field. What a pity. It actually dodged it. Just as she took out a new arrow from her quiver, she found that the injured vole, as if enraged, rushed towards her quickly. Yunxi was startled. She was not surprised by the vole rushing towards her, but by the thing on the vole's head. A red stripe appeared on the head of the field mouse she injured. Dad, did you see it? She didn't shoot any more arrows, but just dodged, trying to see the red stripe on the field mouse's head clearly. Of course I saw it. You are being chased by the field mouse and you have to hide here and there. How could I not see it? Lu Dahu laughed. Do you want Dad's help? But even if you do that, you will fail. Lu Yunxi paused. After that, she tried again and found that only she could see the red stripe on the field mouse's head. Rejecting her father's help, she tried to raise the bow and arrow to shoot at the field mouse. The magical thing is that every time the field mouse is shot, the red stripe on the field mouse will decrease, and the words -1, -2 will appear at the same time. The last arrow, the arrow directly penetrated the field mouse's body. After the words -10 appeared, the red stripe on the field mouse's head completely disappeared, and the field mouse fell to the ground. Lu Yunxi thought to herself, how can this be so similar to an online game? When the monster's health drops to the bottom, it wins. Online game. Wait. She suddenly remembered that in the novels that the interns talked about before, the protagonists who traveled through time and space all had systems and golden fingers. Could this be her golden finger? When hitting a vole, can you see the health of the vole? Lu Yunxi fell into deep thought. If she inherits her father's business and becomes a hunter in the future, then this golden finger is too wonderful. After thinking for a while, she decided to hide another vole to see. What if it was just an illusion just now? Lu Dahu, who was standing next to her, was stunned. When he came to the field for the first time, he was scared. He spent a long time but failed to beat the vole. Instead, he suffered a lot of injuries. Unlike his daughter, she succeeded the first time. When he came to his senses, he saw Zir hitting the second vole. The first time, Zir wasted a lot of arrows. The second time, she only used 4 arrows to knock down the vole. Looking at his calm daughter, Lu Dahu suddenly became excited. His daughter is not only a genius, but also a genius among geniuses. Maybe she can enter the legendary world. After Lu Yunxi killed a few field mice, she soon confirmed that she really had a golden finger. In the future, when she goes out hunting, she will know the health of the animals at any time. And when Lu Yunxi was busy killing field mice, at the entrance of the village, under the shade of the tree next to the plaque. Except for those who have to work, the elderly and children still stay where they are, find a small bench to sit and wait for Lu Yunxi to come back. Seeing the children staring at the road at the entrance of the village, an old man couldn't help laughing. You kids, go and play. Killing field mice is not that easy. Maybe we have to wait until night for Dahu and the others to come back. Humph. What are you talking about, old man? In my opinion, they will be back soon. Another old man who didn't get along with him immediately snorted. The first time you go, it's just a look at most. Who would dare to stay there? Other old men joined the group chat. That's right. And it's a girl, not a boy. When she comes back later, she might be scared to tears. Bah. How dare you look down on a girl? Yunxi is always smart, she won't be scared. But you cried for several days when you went there for the first time. The old people started to argue. Stop arguing. Look, are Dahu and Yunxi back? The old man who had never expressed his opinion suddenly spoke up. As soon as he said this, everyone shut up and stared at the direction of the road. It was them. It's really them. I just said, they can't come back at night. Oh, they came back so early. They definitely didn't catch the field mouse. I told you long ago, a girl definitely can't do it. It's a boy who can catch field mice. Some of the old people sighed, some were proud, and some shook their heads helplessly. The children didn't understand their complicated emotions. Seeing the first hero who went out and came back, they all greeted him happily. Especially Lidaya, her mouth was wide open. Her best sister was the first to leave the village. Isn't this something she should be proud of? Yunxi, you are so great. You saw the field. She ran up happily, but halfway through her words, she couldn't help screaming. Ah! Lu Yunxi was startled. What's wrong? What's wrong? Zio. Dia pointed at the thing in Lu Yunxi's hand with one hand, covered her mouth with one hand, and her eyes were wide open. The other children followed Dia's line of sight and their faces suddenly changed. Ah, you are talking about this? This is the field mouse I killed. Lu Yunxi noticed their gazes and raised the field mouse in his hand. Do you want to see it? The other children seemed to have seen a pervert. Their faces turned pale, took a step back, and then ran away screaming. Lu Yunxi? The children's scream startled the old people. Ah! This. You actually killed a field mouse. The old man sitting on the far right widened his eyes. Lu Yunxi nodded. I did, but I only killed 5, not many. Impossible. You're lying. How could you kill a field mouse? I don't believe it, the old man interrupted her, with an incredulous look on his face. It must have been your father who killed. Before she finished speaking, She was interrupted by the old man sitting in the middle. 5. His face was shaking with excitement, and he leaned over and stared at her, with an incredulous look on his face. You really killed 5. Yunxi gritted her teeth secretly, pushed away the big face that was close to her, and wiped off the saliva that sprayed on her face. It was indeed 5. The old man on the far right wanted to question it, but an old woman sitting behind him pushed him away. Go away. We have to pay homage to our ancestors tomorrow. How could Yunxi brag? The incredulous old people stopped for a moment, looking doubtful about their lives. The old woman smiled like a flower. Yunxi, this is your first time to hunt field mice. You are also the first person to succeed on the first try. And you didn't just catch one, you caught 5. The old men sitting in the back also gathered around, with a look of admiration on their faces. Yunxi is really a hero, a good girl. Awesome, you really deserve to be the first person to hunt field mice. Yunxi, if you have time, take care of my useless grandson. Yunxi was suddenly surrounded by flattery. The old men on the right were still shocked, and kept muttering impossible. This is impossible. Chapter 6 System. Capital Star, Number 1 Game Company, Testing Department. The game cabin was opened, and the tester came out, smiling and nodding. Very good. The NPCs made by the random system are very real. NPCs can even act according to their personalities, go out to study, find jobs, etc. There is no need to set them one by one. I feel like real people already. Good. The planning department manager slapped his thigh with joy. The R&D department is really awesome. Originally, he thought that at most they could give people random personality traits, past experiences and skills, but he didn't expect that after the personality was randomized, they didn't need to design the actions of the characters. In this way, except for the most important bosses and NPCs, they don't need to worry about other characters. The R&D department manager was stunned when he heard the tester's praise. Strange. The random system he made should be the kind that is very popular. Is it so smart? Manager Wang, it's amazing. You really deserve to be the most powerful person in the R&D department. In my opinion, your level is better than other company programmers. The planning department manager gave a thumbs up. When the people around heard this, they also gathered around, with envy and jealousy on their faces. Mr. Wang's bonus will definitely be doubled this month. Why can't they make such a good thing? Listening to the flattery of the people around him, Manager Wang gradually forgot about a slight abnormality and just thought it was his own illusion. The tester must be telling the truth. It seems that he is really a genius. The random system that was made in a month solved the company's problem in one go. They were so happy that they wanted to have a party to celebrate. No one noticed that the monitor in the corner flashed red light. At the same time, in the control room of the intelligent brain, the intelligent brain suspended in the middle also flashed red light. Hey, am I seeing things? I think I saw the smart brain flashing. One of the employees rubbed his eyes through the glass. Is there something wrong? Should we go in and take a look? How is that possible? How many years have passed since the smart brain was developed? There are no problems with the smart brain now. The boss asked us to stay here, not because he was worried that the smart brain would have problems, but because he asked us to watch and not let anyone in. Lest the smart brain be stolen. The employee next to him was speechless. The smart brain is too expensive. If it is lost, we can't afford to pay for it even if we sell it. Hiss, then we'd better not go in. It would be bad if it is lost and we are blamed. The two looked up and looked through the glass. Seeing that the smart brain was still floating in the middle, they were relieved. Just when the two were relieved, they didn't notice that the smart brain seemed to be relieved, and the red light flashed slightly and jumped up and down night. Yunxi confirmed again and again that the door was locked and the window was closed before returning to bed. After seeing the health bar while beating the field mouse, she thought of the system in the novel, but she didn't dare to mess around outside, so she waited until she was alone before she dared to try it. System? Game system? Open the system panel, she muttered silently in her heart. Who knew that there was actually a screen slowly unfolding in front of her? She immediately became alert. The system panel has 3 sections: basic attributes, skills, and backpack. Name, Yunxi. Identity, little girl from Mushroom Village. Level 1, internship. Age 5, appearance 90, strength 31, agility 36, spirit 100, title, none. Looking at her basic attributes, Yunxi was stunned for a moment. Compared with her mental strength, her strength and agility are really pitiful. No wonder her health was often only -1 or -2 when she was beating the field mouse. After reading it, she opened the skill panel again. Combat skills, archery, practice, boxing and kicking, practice, life skills, cooking, practice. There is a red bar behind the skills and levels, but there is no specific value. According to the routine of online games, she guessed that this is the experience bar. As the experience value increases, she should be able to level up. Yunxi threw the field mouse meat she killed into her backpack. The field mouse meat stacked together only occupies 1 grid, and there are 25 grids in total. With this backpack, she can put anything she kills in the future, and she doesn't have to worry about losing things. Knock knock knock, the familiar knocking sound continued, and the sound was getting louder and louder. Yunxi sighed, opened the window and looked at the sky. It's almost 5:30 in the morning now. Didn't you change to training after breakfast? Why are you here so early again today? She yawned and slowly opened the door. What's the matter, Zir? It's me. Where is the field mouse you killed yesterday? As soon as she opened the door, her father asked directly. Seeing her father in a state of anxiety, Yunxi sobered up a little. Field mice? I remember, didn't she throw all the field mice into the system backpack yesterday? Oh no. With her father here, it's inconvenient for her to open the backpack. Dad, what do you need the field mice for? Seeing her father so anxious, could it be that the field mice have some secrets? The person who kills the field mouse must take the field mouse to the ancestral hall to hold a ceremony the next day. This ceremony is very important. Only after the ceremony can you be considered a member of our village. Dad, who was sweating profusely, look for it quickly. We will go to the ancestral hall soon. After hearing this, she was a little confused. What ceremony? However, her father looked extremely anxious, so she didn't ask too much, and quickly said, I don't remember where I put it. I'll go into the house to look for it. After that, she slammed the door shut, then quickly moved things, deliberately making noises, pretending that she was looking for something, and at the same time opened the system backpack with her mind. There was only one box with something in the back, and the number 5 was written on the lower right corner of the box. These were the 5 voles she put in last night. She immediately took out the voles and wanted to give them to her dad. However, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes passed. The room was still the same as before, and no voles appeared at all. Yunxi's face changed slightly. She opened the backpack again, checked it carefully, and tried to take the voles out again. Unfortunately, the voles were still in the backpack and she couldn't get them out. She frowned, picked up a cup from the table, and put it in the backpack easily. However, when she wanted to take it out, there was still no movement. After figuring out the pattern, she felt terrible. What kind of broken backpack is this? You can only put things in it, but you can't take things out. In this case, what use is this backpack? Isn't it just like a trash can? Chapter 7, The Age of Adventure. Yunxi was almost pissed off by this rubbish backpack. She took a few deep breaths, suppressed her anger, and ran out with a bow and arrow. Dad, I remember that I threw away the field mice I brought back because I thought they were useless. I'll go and kill a few more now. Hearing this, Dad, who was stunned for a moment. When he reacted, he saw his daughter running away. He shouted, one is enough. Remember to come back before noon. Yunxi waved without looking back. She had already had experience after killing a few field mice yesterday. In less than half an hour, she successfully killed one. After returning home, Dad, who hurriedly took her to the ancestral hall to complete the ceremony. The so-called ceremony was not complicated. It was just a simple worship of the ancestors in the ancestral hall. Originally, Yunxi did not take this ceremony seriously until she found that her identity in the attribute panel had changed. Identity, Mushroom Village villager. Originally, her identity was a little girl from Mushroom Village. She was a little puzzled. Can't people who didn't enter the ancestral hall be considered villagers of Mushroom Village? Alice. Zir, thanks to your ability, you don't have to worry about the future. Dad looked at her with complicated eyes. The village does have a rule that people over 18 who haven't knocked down field mice by themselves will be driven out of the village and become vagrants. What? Drive out? Yunxi was shocked and pursed her lips unconsciously. But some people really can't beat field mice, right? Like Liuerge, who was injured before, it's good enough that he can walk now. Is there no exception for his situation? Dad, who sighed and shook his head. Zir, I know you think it's unfair, but the world is so cruel. This is the rule passed down by our ancestors, no one can change it. She clenched her fists and felt a tightness in her chest. Originally, she thought that although the people in the village were noisy at ordinary times, they would still help each other when they encountered trouble. Their village is still very united, who knows? After Yunxi knew about this, except for being a little silent that day, she became the same as before the next day. The identity of a formal villager in Mushroom Village did not bring her much change, and her life was still the same as before. During the day, she spent half an hour with her father exercising and learning archery. In the afternoon, she would squat by the stream and daydream, or go out to play with her friends. Until, Liu suddenly came to the door. Yunxi, Liu urges leaving tomorrow, do you want to see him off? What? Yunxi was stunned. Have you forgotten? Liu will be 18 years old tomorrow. Dia imitated the tone of the old people in the village and sighed like a little adult. He is also old enough to go out and explore. Time flies. Dia's tone was exactly the same as that of the old man at the entrance of the village. Yunxi almost laughed at her. However, the next second, she suddenly remembered the rules of the village. Her smile froze. 18 years old. She suddenly remembered what her father said. If a villager cannot beat a field mouse by himself at the age of 18, he will be driven out of the village and wander around. That's great. Brother Liu can go out. Dia held her cheek with envy. I'm still many years away from turning 18. I also want to go out and see the outside world early. It's a pity that I have to be 18 to leave the village. Hearing these words full of longing, Yunxi's knuckles turned slightly white. Because every villager goes out at the age of 18, she subconsciously thought that only when they are 18 years old, everyone will let the younger generation of the village go out. The children in the village also think so. But now it seems that this is not the case at all. These people who leave home at the age of May 18th not necessarily want to go out and make a living. Maybe they were driven out of the village because they did not complete the task of hitting field mice. She lowered her head, not wanting Dia to see the uncontrollable sarcasm on her face. In the evening, the sky was slightly dark, and the smoke from the cooking in the village rose. Liu's family, East Wing. A gust of wind blew, bringing bursts of coolness. Liu frowned slightly, and felt his throat itchy, and couldn't help coughing twice. He carefully put the pen away and walked to the window. Just as he was about to close the window, he saw a dark shadow suddenly flash out. His pupils shrank suddenly. Who is it? Is it a thief? However, just when he wanted to shout for help, he heard a childish and slightly familiar voice. Brother Liu, don't shout, it's me. The dark shadow pulled off the black cloth covering his face. Liu looked closely and realized that the dark shadow in front of him was just a little kid who was not even as tall as his waist. The little kid was wearing a black dress and had a chubby little face. If he was not so small, he really looked like a bandit. He supported his forehead helplessly, but he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Yunxi, you can go through the front door next time you come to my place, don't climb through the window again. He was so scared that his heart almost stopped when he suddenly saw a dark shadow just now. Brother Liu, Yunxi looked around and saw that he was the only one in the room, so he went straight to the point. I heard that you are going out tomorrow, right? Liu smiled and said that's right, while pouring her a cup of tea and asking her to sit down and talk slowly. But she looked serious and had no intention of drinking tea. She took a deep breath and said seriously, Brother Liu, I know your secret. You didn't leave the village voluntarily, right? The hand of Brother Liu pouring tea trembled slightly, and the tea flowed onto the table. He hurriedly picked up the cloth and wiped it clean. Yunxi held his hand and pretended not to see his surprised expression. After a moment of silence, she finally said, if you don't want to leave, I can help you hide. Originally, she didn't want to come here, but she didn't know if it was because she had lived here for too long and got used to this leisurely and beautiful life. She became more and more intolerant of these dark things. Just because you can't beat the field mouse, you have to be driven out of the village. What is this? It's not something unforgivable to be unable to beat the field mouse, right? Liu was stunned for a moment, and then showed a somewhat pale smile. Thank you. He lowered his eyelids to hide the emotions rolling in his eyes, but the rules of our ancestors cannot be violated. Go back, I will pretend that I have not seen you tonight. He lowered his head and thought about something. And he regained his gentle smile and firmly refused her help. Seeing that he was so determined, she moved her lips, but finally said nothing. No matter when, what I say is always valid. If you want to stay in the village, you can come to me at any time, she solemnly promised before leaving. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Secret. One night passed. Before dawn, Yunxi reached the village chief's house. Seeing Liu enter the village chief's house, she quickly put her ear to it. What a pity. I don't know if the wall is too thick or for some other reason, I can't hear the conversation inside at all. About a quarter of an hour later, Brother Liu came out with red eyes, and the village chief behind him watched him silently. Yunxi was originally considering whether to go up and help. After all, Brother Liu is really a good person. After the villagers became normal, she often went to chat with people. Many villagers were impatient with her, and only Brother Liu had been very patient with her. However, when I went to find Brother Liu last night, he was still a little moved, and this morning he was even more reluctant to leave. But I don't know what the village chief said to him, he suddenly became firm, and had no intention of staying in the village. Seeing that look, she knew that Brother Liu would never stay. But she couldn't figure it out. What did the village chief say to Brother Liu that could convince him to leave the village on his own initiative? Looking at the back of Liu walking away, Yunxi was full of doubts. Or, did she knock Liu unconscious and hide secretly? She watched for a while, and when she was about to catch up with Liu, she heard a familiar voice. Yunxi, hearing the voice of the village chief, she paused and turned around after a while. Village chief, facing the kind and benevolent village chief, she didn't know what to say, so she could only lower her head and pretend to look at the ants under her feet. The old man didn't seem to notice her strangeness and still smiled. The two entered the yard and sat face to face. The smoke rose from the teacup, blocking each other's sight. The second kid has already told me that you looked for him last night, the village chief smiled indifferently, as if it was just a trivial matter. Yunxi's heart sank suddenly. How did Liu tell what happened last night? When she thought that the village chief was a person who was kind on the surface but actually cold and ruthless, she felt a little uneasy. If the village chief wants to get rid of herself here later. She quickly glanced around and noticed that the gate was closed. Oh no. If the village chief wants to fight, she may not be able to beat him. Even though she beat the field mouse, can the strength of a field mouse be compared with that of an adult man? And the village chief looks old only because of a lot of white hair. In fact, he is only in his 40s. They call the village chief grandpa mainly out of respect, not because of how old he is. Yunxi secretly became alert. Don't be nervous, as if he saw her nervousness. The village chief laughed for a long time, and sighed after a while. You think it's too cruel for me to drive these people who can't beat field mice out of the village, right? She didn't say anything, but she thought to herself, isn't it cruel? It's okay for others, but for someone like Liu who has problems with his legs and feet, if he runs into a tiger or something on the mountain road after leaving the village, that would be a dead end. The village chief put down his teacup and said in a heavy tone, in fact, we had to drive people away. The reason why our ancestors set this rule was to save our lives. People in the village who can't beat field mice are not blessed by the mountain god. After the age of 18, their bodies will become weaker and weaker, and they will die in less than a month. The blessing of the mountain god. What kind of feudal superstition is this? Yunxi was speechless. The village chief seemed to see her disapproval and explained, it's true, we have tried many times. Whether we help them beat field mice, or let them take medicine to catch field mice, or let them go directly to the ancestral hall, it's useless. They are never blessed. Only those who beat field mice by themselves can be protected by the mountain god. So for those who can't beat field mice by themselves, we can only let them leave the village. Only by leaving the village will their bodies not continue to weaken, and at least they can save their lives. Brother Liu went to the town alone. What if he encountered a tiger, but the others died before they even got to the town? Don't worry about that. Those who go to the town are actually protected by someone in secret until they are safely sent to the town. Yunxi has been paying attention to the expression of the village chief, but she did not find any signs of lying. Either the village chief is telling the truth, or he is disguising himself too well. She fell into deep thought. People who can't beat field mice will become weak after the age of 18. This should be true. After all, this lie is too easy to expose. But the reason should not be that they cannot be protected by the mountain god, but other reasons. Ancient people had limited knowledge, and when they encountered problems that could not be solved, they would believe in these supernatural things. Village chief, is there no way at all? No way. We can only try our best to make their lives better outside. The village chief smiled. You will know when you go out to make a living. Our village has a house in the town, and those who go out to work can live there. The house is very big and can accommodate dozens of people. Yunxi widened her eyes. I didn't expect that their village also had a house in the town. But in this way, she was much more relieved for Liu, who had just gone out. Originally, I only told the villagers who were wandering outside about this matter, but I was afraid that you would do something wrong, so I told you. The village chief patted her shoulder. Remember to keep the secret. After all, some villagers feel uncomfortable when their families say that they are going out to make a living, let alone letting them know the truth. Yunxi was silent. She felt that her thoughts were tangled and had become a mess. The village chief did not notice her silence, immersed in his own thoughts, and suddenly sighed. Speaking of which, another person will leave the village in a few days. Who? It's the girl from the Liu family who lives in the west of the village, named Baozu. The village chief smiled and sighed. Their family is different from Liu. They are also happy for Baozu to go out and make a living, and they have packed their things a long time ago. This is also good, better than being forced to leave the village. Yunxi looked up in surprise. Although she didn't know what country she was in, as an ancient country, the customs here were already very open-minded. It is said that women in the town can go out on the street at will, and they don't need to cover their faces when going out. There are even women doing business outside, but most people still can't accept the fact that unmarried women go out to make a living. I didn't expect that the Liu family is so open-minded. After leaving the village chief's house, Yunxi hesitated for a moment, but decided to go see this girl from the Liu family. Are you looking for Baozu? Baozu has already gone out to make a living. If you had come a few days earlier, you would have seen her. It was Liu Baozu's mother who opened the door. When she heard her words, she shook her head with a look of regret. What a pity. She didn't say when she would be back. Yunxi felt a little regretful, but didn't take it to heart. Chapter 9, Making Trouble. In order to figure out how to use the system backpack, Yunxi picked wild vegetables for 3 consecutive days, and the same wild vegetables. Soon she found that the same thing in the backpack can only be stacked up to 99 in a grid, and the extra ones will occupy new grids. While she was picking wild vegetables, she also got a new life skill, Ling. Congratulations on understanding the collection technique by yourself. You can actually understand skills by yourself. Yunxi immediately became interested. After that, except for training time, she was busy with various things, such as sewing, weaving, fishing, etc. In just a few days, she got a lot of skills, although they were all at the internship level. There was even a skill that was upgraded to the primary level. And the skill that she upgraded to the primary level was the detection technique, which is a skill used to understand the basic situation of items. For example, the wild vegetables in her hand showed, intact motherwort, edible, has the effects of clearing heat and detoxification, reducing swelling and dispersing knots, and diuresis and relieving stranguria. You can even detect tables, chairs and benches. Broken table, a table with a corner missing. Yunxi found it very interesting. After getting the detection technique, she kept using it wherever she went, even hundreds of times a day. After playing with the skills, she went to hunt voles and upgraded her level. The strength, agility and spirit in the attribute panel all increased by 1. Name, Yunxi. Identity, Mushroom Village Villager. Level 2, Internship. Age 5, Appearance 90, Strength 40, Agility 37, Spirit 101, Title, None. Seeing this, she was speechless. The increase was too little. She usually trained, such as archery and horse stance, and the strength increased with more practice, and it also increased by 8 points, which was much more than the 1 point added when upgrading. After experimenting with the system over and over again, Yunxi's interest in the system was greatly reduced, and she returned to her salted fish life. That afternoon, she lay on the grass and slept soundly. A scream broke through the sky. Yunxi, who had just fallen asleep, sat up suddenly and looked around nervously. What happened? Where did the scream just now come from? However, after looking for a while, the surroundings were still sunny and windy. She was a little suspicious. Did she have a nightmare? At this moment, there was a noise in the center of the village. She immediately stood up, patted the grass debris on her body, and walked towards the direction of the sound. When she was almost at the center of the village, she saw a woman pulling a doctor from a distance, cursing something. Yunxi was stunned. What is this? Is it a medical dispute? So there were medical disputes in ancient times? Just as she was stunned, many villagers also gathered around, poking their heads to join in the fun. You quack doctor, my daughter is already like this. You still don't want to treat her, don't you just want money? The woman sneered. Tell me, how much do you want to treat my daughter? Seeing the woman, Yunxi was stunned. Isn't the person who is arguing with the doctor Liu Bao's mother? I just met her a few days ago. The doctor looked at Aunt Liu with a headache and sighed, and, it's not that I don't want to treat your daughter, it's really, Alice. I really can't cure her disease. Dr. Sun glanced at the villagers who were watching the excitement, and then looked at Aunt Liu, a little embarrassed, and, this matter, why don't we go into the house and talk slowly? What room? Aunt Liu seemed to think that a request was useless. She slapped his hand away without any hesitation, and put her hands on her waist. You quickly cure my daughter for me, otherwise I will block your door every day in the future. See how you can open a clinic, the villagers around whispered. Why is Dr. Sun unwilling to help the child of the Liu family? Does he really want money? Impossible. Dr. Sun has collected money from us for so many years. Did it cure him? The girl of the Liu family can't be cured? Yunxi fell into deep thought. Aunt Liu only has one daughter. Did they say she went out to make a living? Why is she still in the village now, and she is seriously ill? The village chief is here, everyone, make way, a villager shouted. The villagers quickly made way for the village chief to go in. The village chief took a deep look at Aunt Liu, and then turned to the doctor. Dr. Sun, please accompany me to the Liu family again. Yunxi noticed that after the village chief came, Aunt Liu's face turned pale instantly, and the sweat on her head kept dripping down. She suddenly had an inexplicable premonition in her heart. Could it be that Liu Baozu didn't actually leave the village? Thinking of the secret that the village chief had said before, she frowned. A group of people came to the Liu family. Originally, the village chief wanted the villagers to go back, but Aunt Liu didn't know whether she was too scared or what, and she shouted loudly, Village chief, are you going to ask me to send my daughter out of the village again? I will never agree. As soon as these words came out, the villagers turned their heads to look at the village chief. Before the village chief could speak, Aunt Liu suddenly burst into tears. Too much? You insisted that I send Baozu out of the village before, but have you ever thought about it? Our Baozu is just a weak girl. If it weren't for my previous fall and premature birth, which made her so weak, how could she not be able to catch the field mouse? After saying that, she squatted on the ground with her face covered, tears streaming down her face. Baozu is so sick now, if you let her go now, isn't it just letting her die? Yunxi glanced at the village chief's somewhat dark face and remained silent. The villagers also began to whisper, looking at the village chief with suspicion in their eyes. Alice, the village chief sighed, glanced at Liu Baozu, who was pale on the bed, and then looked at Dr. Sun. Dr. Sun nodded and exchanged glances with him. The village chief thought for a long time before he looked at the villagers with a serious face. Everyone be quiet. After the villagers were quiet, he slowly said, I have not told you the truth before, now I will tell you why these people must leave the village. This is what happened, the village chief explained in detail. Yunxi had heard the village chief say it before, but she didn't listen this time. Instead, she looked at Liu Baozu seriously. She used the detection technique. A person who has been drugged and cursed can only recover his health by staying away from the cursed village. She was stunned for a moment. Curse. The village chief said that if the field mouse was not killed, it would not be blessed by the mountain god, not a curse. And the drug. Could it be that Aunt Liu drugged her daughter in order to prevent her daughter from leaving the village? Chapter 10 Magical Fried Shrimp. Just when Yunxi was confused, the village chief finally finished explaining. Look at this child of the Liu family. She will become weaker and weaker until she dies. We have no choice but to send her out to keep her alive. The village chief gestured to everyone to look at Liu Baozu on the bed. Originally I didn't want to tell you about this, so as not to make you too miserable. But you don't know this, I'm afraid that someone will secretly leave the child at home like Aunt Liu." Everyone looked down and saw that Liu Bao's who was so weak that her breathing was about to disappear, and their faces couldn't help but darken. Aunt Liu was stunned in place. Tears kept falling. "It's me. It's me who hurt Bao's who." Dr. Sun also nodded. "It's true. I thought about curing them before, but I never succeeded, and in the end I had to send them away." Many villagers had relatives who were sent out of the village, and their faces were very ugly at this moment. Then, village chief and Dr. Sun, "Even your children can't return to the village." The village chief closed his eyes and said in a tired tone, "Yes, they can never come back." The villagers personally sent Liu Bao's who and Aunt Liu to the town. A few days later, the villagers who followed them out brought back good news. Not long after Bao's who arrived in the town, her health began to improve. "When we came back, she had recovered and could go out." Aunt Liu was very happy and decided to settle down in the town. By the way, she also gave us a lot of dried fruits that are only available in the town, and asked us to bring the gifts to the village chief and Dr. Sun, and apologize for her. By the way, Yunxi also got some dried fruits, which seemed to be made of plums. The flesh was sour and sweet, and very delicious. However, this little plum flesh only made her happy for a while, and soon she was not happy anymore. Dad and Mom knew from somewhere that she wanted to keep Brother Liu in the village before. "Zir, Mother knows you have good intentions, but before you do anything, you must think it through. Some things may seem one thing on the surface, but they are actually not like that at all. If you were like Aunt Liu, and deliberately knocked Liu unconscious in order to help him, think about what Liu would do now. If you really leave that kid Liu here, their family might be so angry that they would beat you up." Her father also had a serious face, and then changed the subject. "You did something wrong and almost hurt others, so you must be punished. Do you admit it?" Yunxi was silent for a moment, and then nodded. "I admit it." She did almost take action before regarding Brother Liu's matter. If Liu had not chosen to leave the village in the end, if she had not been stopped by the village chief, she would probably have kept him secretly in the village. She had been lazy since she traveled to ancient times, and for the first time she was a little alert. Don't think that you are better than the ancients in everything just because you traveled to ancient times. For example, can't she use science to explain the matter in the village? Even because I wanted to intervene casually, I almost hurt others. I can't lose my vigilance just because life in the village is too peaceful. Yunxi warned herself in her heart, but she didn't notice the flash of light in her parents' eyes. "Okay. From today on, your morning training time will be extended to 2 hours. Her father looked serious. Before she could come to her senses, her mother continued, "In the afternoon, you will learn cooking, embroidery and simple medicine with your mother." She couldn't help but frown. It was not easy to reduce the training time for a whole day, and now she has to study and train for another whole day. Just as she was about to say something to dispel the idea of her parents, her mother saw through it at a glance. "You always have to learn these, and now everything is just brought forward. What's more, the punishment only lasts for 1 month. Don't you want to accept the punishment?" Yunxi was stunned. This was the first time she saw her mother so serious. After a long while, she closed her eyes. "I admit it," although she knew that her parents were probably tricking her and wanted her to have more time to study and train, she was not unlucky in her heart. Fortunately, the village chief stopped her at that time, so she didn't make a big mistake. In the end, Yunxi still accepted the punishment honestly, because she also wanted to make herself sober and not be so impulsive. After that, it took 6 hours every day just to study and train. She really became much calmer. She deeply missed the leisurely days some time ago, and secretly vowed that if she encountered unfair things in the future, she must find out everything carefully, inside and outside, instead of rushing up to make trouble without saying a word. A month later, the punishment that made her life hopeless was finally over, and Yunxi breathed a sigh of relief. Returning to her leisurely life, when she didn't have to train, she would lie on the grass in front of her house. "Zioxi, Zixi," a familiar voice came. Yunxi held a grass root in her mouth and glanced at the person who came lazily. It turned out that Li Dia was here. "What's wrong, Zioxi? Let's go catch shrimps." Li Dia came over and looked at her expectantly. "Why do you suddenly want to catch shrimps?" Yunxi turned over and sat up, a little curious. "Do you know how good shrimps taste? Grandma made fried shrimps for me yesterday. They were so delicious." Li Dia seemed to be recalling something. Her saliva was about to flow down. She wiped her saliva. Yunxi, why don't you come too? The two of us can catch more together. Seeing her greedy look, Yunxi's heart was itching. She had wanted to eat meat for a long time. After her parents became like normal people, the dishes they cooked were indeed richer, but they were all vegetarian. There was no one selling pork in the village, and the only hunter in the village, her father, didn't know what he was busy with, and he had never been to the mountain. The two walked to the stream. Dia rolled up her sleeves and trouser legs in a few seconds, and then stepped into the stream. Yunxi, what are you waiting for? Come down quickly. Dia waved at her vigorously. Although Dia was only 5 years old like her, the water in the stream in front of their house was very shallow. Even if they walked to the center of the stream, the water would just cover their feet. So the children in the village would not worry too much when they played by the stream. They spent an afternoon by the stream, and the final result was a small shrimp at the bottom of a bucket each. They each carried their own harvest back home. That night, Yunxi ate a legendary delicious fried shrimp. Wow, after taking a bite. The crispy shell and chewy inside instantly amazed her. Mom, this is too delicious. Every dish made by my mother is delicious, but this fried shrimp is also the most delicious among the dishes made by my mother. She subconsciously used the detection technique. Fried shrimp, permanently increase agility by 3 points. Seeing this prompt, she was stunned. In the past, the dishes made by my mother also had the effect of replenishing blood volume, but this was the first time she saw a permanent attribute increase. Suddenly, she found that the two words fried shrimp were actually blue. In the past, the words on the dishes my mother cooked were basically green. Is there any difference? Chapter 11 Pause Training. Yunxi looked at the fried shrimps on the table, and her heart moved. Mom, I want to eat fried shrimps tomorrow, can I? She blinked her round eyes and acted coquettishly towards her mother. You still want to eat fried shrimps? Yunxiang looked at her daughter with a look of desire, a little embarrassed, but finally she refused. Fried shrimps will make you get angry if you eat too much. Can I make you something else tomorrow? Braised prawns, shrimp fried rice, shrimp egg custard, longjing shrimp, boiled shrimp. Listening to the names of the dishes her mother announced, she swallowed unconsciously. Mom, can you cook all the dishes I just mentioned? Yunxiang covered her mouth and laughed. Of course, I may not be good at other things, but I cook fish, shrimp and crabs very well. In the past, my home, your grandmother's home, was surrounded by lakes, and we ate fish and shrimp every day. Yunxi nodded. Tomorrow she will know whether all blue quality foods can have permanent attribute bonuses. If all blue foods had permanent attribute bonuses, she would catch fish and shrimp for her mother every day. How simple it is to add attributes. From now on, she will no longer have to work hard to train. As long as she eats, the attributes will increase. The next day, early in the morning, before the family got up, Yunxi came to the stream with a small bucket in one hand and a basket in the other. This was the idea she had thought of all night last night. Using a basket to catch fish should be much more efficient than yesterday. She spotted the small fish and shrimp in the stream, and as soon as they approached her feet, she quickly scooped them up, and caught the fish and shrimp in the stream in 2 or 3 strokes. It only took her half an hour to catch more than half a bucket of fish and shrimp. It was also a good thing that no one came to catch fish normally, otherwise there wouldn't be so many fish and shrimp in the stream, and they were so stupid that they didn't know to hide when they saw people. Seeing that it was almost time for training, she finished her work and brought a large stream of fresh river food back home. Yunxi had just washed her face and was about to make breakfast when she saw her mother carrying a large bucket of river fish. She was immediately happy. Zir, you have a good harvest. She flipped through the bucket and put the 2 slightly larger fish in the bucket and dozens of clam shells that were almost as big as her palm into the basin, leaving only the fish and shrimps as thick as a child's finger in the bucket. Okay. Let's make roasted bacon with clams, steamed fish, and fish head tofu soup today. How about it? Yunxi nodded. She didn't care what dishes her mother made, she just hoped that the dishes she made later would be of blue quality. These small fish and shrimps don't have much meat, why don't we put them back and catch them when they grow up? There were already so many dishes, and Yunxi really didn't want to eat these small fish and shrimps. It was troublesome to handle them, and there was not much meat to eat. Okay, I'll pour them back. After a morning of training, it was time for lunch. The river fish made by her mother was not fragrant, but it was very tempting. Yunxi quickly used the detection technique. The dishes made with river seafood were all blue quality. Originally, she would be satisfied if only one dish was blue quality. Unexpectedly, her mother was so awesome. Seeing a table full of blue quality dishes, she was overjoyed. Unfortunately, there were no dishes with permanent attributes today. One of them increased resistance to poison for 1 hour, another restored health, restoring 100 health points per second for 1 minute, and another replenished ki. They all sounded good, but they were not very useful to her. Especially the last one, replenishing ki. In the system panel, there was no such thing as ki at all. According to the doctor, replenishing ki and blood is only needed by people with insufficient ki and blood, but she is in good health and does not have insufficient ki and blood. After eating this dish, she felt nothing except that it tasted good. Yunxi was a little disappointed, but then she thought about it. How could every dish add attributes? If it was really so easy to become a martial arts master, her father would have dominated the world by now. After a moment of disappointment, she put aside all distractions and concentrated on enjoying lunch. The fish and shrimp dishes made by her mother were all delicious. At night, Yunxi was about to go to bed. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, accompanied by the call of Zir. Zir, looking at the door panel that was broken into pieces, she covered her forehead. Here it comes again. Every time her father looks for her, it's either extra training or extra training. Now he comes, needless to say, it's about this again. However, Zir, starting tomorrow, you will suspend all training first. Her father's face was serious, but her jaw dropped. What? Is this what her father can say? She subconsciously took a few steps back, and her suspicious eyes scanned her own father up and down. Her father was betrayed. Who are you? You actually said such a thing. You can't be my father. She looked at the man in front of her vigilantly, only to feel that he was so strange. What nonsense are you talking about, little girl? Dad, who was almost mad at his filial daughter, and immediately stepped forward and slapped her hard. Why am I not your father? Do you want to recognize someone else as your father? Ouch! Yunxi covered her head and widened her eyes. But now she heard his tone, and she also confirmed that the person in front of her was indeed her father. But, she, a king who can dodge the attack of voles, can't escape the sudden attack of her own father. Yunxi was a little surprised. She didn't expect that her father was still a hidden master. Starting tomorrow, you will come to help build a house and learn how to build a house. After Lu Dahu finished speaking, he left impatiently and went back to find his wife. Looking at the back of her father, Yunxi was stunned. She, a 5-year-old little girl, was actually asked to learn to build a house. Awesome! In the previous life, there were cram schools for painting, dancing, programming, etc., and in this life, there are preschool classes for building houses. It seems that whether in ancient times or modern times, evolution has never stopped. Learning starts from childhood. The next morning, Lu's family, the family of 3, sat around the table, staring at the drawings on the table, and began to study. Yunxi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she was not asked to move bricks right away, otherwise she would really vomit blood to show them. Look at this kind of house, made into a bamboo house. The bottom is empty. It can be used to raise chickens and ducks, and the upper part is where people live. Such a house can be built very large. How about it? Do you like it? Dad showed the drawings to the mother and daughter with a satisfied look. No, the smell of chicken and duck feces will float up. At that time, let alone living in it, people may not even dare to go in. Mother immediately refused and took out another drawing. Look at this kind of house. It is built on a tree. There is a staircase here to walk up. It's really beautiful. Yunxi leaned over and thought it was very beautiful, like the house of the legendary elves. Ah! That drawing is everyone's fantasy, and no one can make it now. Lu Dahu took a look and scratched his head. Mother and daughter, the 3 of them studied all the drawings, and finally decided to build a courtyard house after considering the economic conditions, geographical location, construction difficulty and other factors. A courtyard house with 3 entrances. Chapter 12, Sleeping on the Street. The news that the Lu family was going to build a new house made the whole mushroom village lively. The door of the Lu family was filled with all kinds of wood and tiles, and the villagers came to help, either to help move things, or to help build the house, or to send some firewood and vegetables. And Yunxi was busy transporting materials at this time. She was seen pushing the cart with great effort, moving the materials she got from outside the village to the door of her house, pouring all the materials on the ground with great difficulty, and then wiping her sweat. How is it? Is this cart easy to use? Dad came up. This is what I made for you according to your size. Yunxi looked at her father with a fake smile, and barely squeezed out 2 words, very good, it's specially customized. In her previous life, she made so much money, but she didn't dare to customize anything. Instead, she enjoyed specially customized products in ancient times. She was really honored. Keep going, do a good job. Seeing her standing there motionless, Dad came over and patted her on the shoulder. Yunxi was too lazy to pay attention to him. In order to save energy, she simply stopped talking and started working while pulling the cart. Speaking of why she was helping here at the age of 5, we have to go back to the day before the official construction of the house. Her father said confidently, Zir, you are also a member of our Lu family. You will also have a share in this house in the future. Shouldn't you contribute to this house? Yunxi was stunned. Of course she was willing to help, but what could she do? And it's not a difficult thing. For you, who can knock down a wall for the first time, it's just a little tiring. Look at your friends, they're all looking at you. Are you embarrassed to say that you can't do the work? She was only 5 years old. The most important thing is that you can exercise while working. You can help with the work and exercise at the same time. It's just one thing, double the benefits. Isn't it wonderful? I know. After a conversation, Yunxi still came to help, which led to the above scene. Of course, it was not all the reasons her father said. More importantly, she also urgently hoped that her house would be built quickly. Because their house was demolished. It was easy to demolish the old cabin, but it was not easy to build a new house. Now the 3 of them are sleeping on the street. Mom smiled and said that they could see the starry sky, which was very romantic. But Yunxi felt bad. If they were sleeping on the ground, they would not know what would happen if a tiger came down the mountain and swallowed them in the middle of the night. Time flies, and 3 months have passed in a blink of an eye. The 3-story house of the Lu family was finally built. After cleaning, tidying up the yard, and setting up the wine, the busy life of the Lu family finally came to an end and returned to the previous peace. In the afternoon, Yunxi took advantage of her free time and quickly opened the system to take a look. When she saw the power of 58, she was almost happy to lose her mind. Wow! It has increased so much in just 3 months. Sure enough, moving bricks is a good way to exercise strength. Of course, even if she knew that moving bricks was a good way to increase strength, she didn't want to build a house again in her life. Yunxi squatted in horse stance. Her face was very serious, but from her wondering eyes, you could tell that her heart had already flown away. Yunxi, when Daya passed by, she saw this scene and couldn't help but be a little surprised. What are you doing here? Yunxi came back to her senses. She was actually practicing the eyesight in the Lu family archery technique, which required her to stare at one place all the time, but she was distracted just now. Now she was embarrassed to say that she was practicing. After all, anyone with a discerning eye would know that she was just daydreaming. She had to act casually. I was squatting and looking at the scenery, but why did you come here? Aren't you learning to dance with Grandma Wang recently? Yes, I came here specially to find you. Grandma Wang's dancing is so beautiful. Yunxi, do you want to learn with her? Speaking of this topic, Daya couldn't help getting excited. Grandma Wang used to be a dancer in a dance studio, and later she became a master to teach people how to dance. She was one of the best in the dance studio. Now she is old and not as flexible as before, but fortunately she is still strong. She wants to teach what she learned before to the girls in the village, so she asked her eldest apprentice, Daya, to ask the villagers. Daya naturally thought of her good partner first. After hearing this, Yunxi thought to herself, I was busy building the house before, and now I have some free time. I finally have half a day off every day. If I have to learn to dance again, I am not that stupid. With a twitch of her eyes, she immediately rejected Daya's kindness. Daya, I'm so happy that you thought of me. But I have to learn hunting from my father, so I don't have much time to learn anything else. Daya was a little regretful. That's a pity, you don't know. Grandma Wang's dance is so beautiful, that, when she said this, she suddenly became a little alert, looked around furtively, and saw that no one was around, so she leaned close to Yunxi's ear. Yunxi, you haven't seen that dance yet, it's really beautiful. I'll take you to see it in a few days. Yunxi looked at her mysterious look and felt a little funny. He didn't take it to heart at all, just nodded casually. Okay, I know. A few days later. Lu Yunxi couldn't resist Li Dia's invitation and came to Grandma Wang's house. However, as soon as she entered the door, she saw the girls who were learning to dance slam the gate of the courtyard, and then lock the door of the house, and even close the windows tightly. Seeing this scene, she couldn't help but twitch her eyes. This mysterious look, those who don't know would think they are doing pyramid selling in there. Lu Yunxi followed a group of girls into the innermost room. There were several oil lamps at the edge, which was quite bright. The girls in the room hurriedly ran into a room full of curtains next to them, changed their clothes, and then returned to the room with oil lamps. Lu Yunxi was shocked. Their clothes were not the kind of clothes with fluttering sleeves, but clothes that exposed their navels. This kind of clothes is normal to see in modern times, but it is really weird to appear in ancient times. What surprised her even more was that the dance they danced was completely different from the classical dance with fluttering sleeves that she imagined. Everyone was dancing belly dance. Grandma Wang, the leader, turned her ankles, and her tight belly moved with it. Flexible and graceful. She didn't look like an elderly person at all, and her body movements were very flexible. But obviously, Grandma Wang herself was not very satisfied, and her eyebrows were slightly frowned. The girls on the side danced even more like that, sexy and hot, with an exotic beauty. Lu Yunxi stood there stupidly, her eyes almost popping out. Seeing that she didn't respond, Li Dia quickly pulled her. "Xiaoxi, why are you in a daze? Come with us." After saying that, seeing that she still didn't respond, she quickly came over and lowered her voice. "This dance is not those dances that are performed outside for others to see. It's danced at home. If you dance it more, your figure will look good. Look at my master, she is very young, isn't she beautiful?" Lu Yunxi barely pulled herself back to her senses, nodded, and mixed in the crowd to dance belly dance with him. However, although her hands and feet were following the movements, her mind was not on the dance at all. Chapter 13 It Never Rains. On the surface, Lu Yunxi was still learning to dance seriously with everyone, but she had already started screaming wildly in her heart. What's going on? Belly dance doesn't look like something that would appear in ancient times. Taking advantage of the opportunity to learn to dance, she observed Grandma Wang from time to time. Unfortunately, she didn't see anything. In the days that followed, except for training time, she would run to Grandma Wang whenever she could squeeze out free time. She was really curious if someone had traveled here like her. Although her parents were very good to her, she would occasionally miss her life in the modern world, but unfortunately, there was no one to talk to her about this. If she could find someone to talk to her about modern things, it would be wonderful. Knowing the news of the suspected traveler at this time, she naturally couldn't control her excitement. Of course, she still had to find out the news secretly. What if the other party was a bad person? A few months later, Lu Yunxi's dance had risen from the internship level to the elementary level, and after so many days, she was sure that Grandma Wang was not a traveler. According to the information she had inquired, Grandma Wang learned belly dancing from her teacher, but her teacher had long since passed away. At this point, Lu Yunxi could not determine who the time traveler was, so she had to give up on tracking down the time traveler. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, Lu Yunxi is 9 years old. "I'm leaving, Zir, Yunyang." Lu Dia, who checked his bow and quiver, said goodbye to the two, and then walked up the mountain. Lu Yunxi and her mother watched him walk away, and then returned home. Her father usually went hunting for 2 or 3 days, sometimes even 4 or 5 days before returning. When she thought that her father would be away from home for many days, Lu Yunxi felt like the Monkey King who escaped from the Five-Finger Mountain, feeling extremely free. Although her mother would urge her to train, she didn't know much about martial arts, and she couldn't tell whether she was training seriously or perfunctorily. Lu Yunxi pretended to train for a while, and when her mother went back to her room to embroider, she slipped out of the gate. However, just a few steps out of the house, the sunlight above her head was suddenly blocked, and the whole sky darkened. Lu Yunxi paused, looked up at the dark sky, and hurried home. What's going on? It's still early in the morning. The sky is actually dark. And almost at the moment she ran back to her room, heavy rain poured down. The heavy rain and fog blocked people's sight, and even the trees planted outside the window could not be seen clearly. She couldn't help but frown. Since she was born, it has never rained in Mushroom Village. Although she didn't understand why the village was beautiful, it never rained. However, she had lived for 9 years, and it had never rained in the village, and the villagers were still very calm. so she guessed that it should rain much here. Now it suddenly rained. She was a little worried whether there would be danger in the mountains and forests. Thinking of her father in the mountains and forests, she pursed her lips uneasily and prayed silently in her heart. The rain was heavy. Compared with the heavy rain she had seen in her previous life, the heavy rain here was just a drizzle. Yunxi looked out of her window for a while and found that the visibility through the rain was less than 1 meter. Even if she wanted to go up the mountain to find her father now, with such low visibility, they might not be able to find each other even if they passed by each other. Thinking of this, she knew that it was impossible to go up the mountain to find her father, but her heart sank uncontrollably. With such heavy rain, what if there was an accident like a landslide? Just when she was getting more and more irritated. Zir. Zir, the sound of the heavy rain covered other sounds. After a long while, Yunxi vaguely heard her mother's call. The voice was full of panic and anxiety, which made her pause suddenly. She hurriedly shouted back with all her strength, "Mom, I'm in the house." She shouted this several times, but her mother should not have heard it, because her mother kept calling her name, and her voice became more and more shrill. Hearing her mother's crying voice, Yunxi walked around the house anxiously. She began to rummage through the house. After a while, she finally found a decorative bamboo umbrella. Fortunately, although it was placed at home as a decoration, the quality was still acceptable and could barely be used as an umbrella. She opened the bamboo umbrella, used it to block the splashing rain, and quickly passed through the corridor and ran to her mother's room. At this time, she was particularly grateful. Fortunately, her mother refused to build a bamboo house before. With such heavy rain, the bamboo house could not block it at all. Moreover, this kind of courtyard house is connected in all directions, and you can walk directly under the eaves. Although it cannot completely block the rain, at least you don't have to get soaked. As soon as I entered the door, I saw my mother sitting stupidly by the bed, staring at the rain outside with her eyes, tears in her eyes, and her body trembling slightly. "Mom," regardless of the wet skirt at her feet, Yunxi threw the umbrella into the corner and ran to the bed. "Mom," she hugged her mother, patting her back with one hand, "I'm here. It's okay. We're all fine." With her constant comfort, her mother gradually calmed down. Yunxi wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Seeing her daughter carefully comforting her, her cheeks felt a little hot and she felt a little embarrassed. Just when the heavy rain poured down, her heart seemed to be pinched by someone, and the pain was unbearable, so she suddenly broke down and cried. As a mother, not only did she fail to comfort her daughter, but she let her daughter, who was still a child, comfort herself. It was really. Yunxi didn't know what she was thinking. Seeing that her emotions had settled down, she quickly went to boil a pot of water and sprinkled some osmanthus petals. With a heavy rain, the temperature felt like it dropped all of a sudden. Even she felt a little cold, not to mention her mother who was not in good health. The two sat quietly, drinking osmanthus tea, looking at the rain outside the window, with a calm face. It looked like a landscape painting. However, they still couldn't control themselves and kept looking outside subconsciously. After sitting there stupidly for an hour, the rain outside was still so heavy, and there was no sign of it decreasing. Yunxi didn't show anything on the surface, but the villain in her heart was already anxious. 1 hour, that is. 2 hours, and this was only counted after they had tea. It has been raining so heavily, and there is no telling if her father, who is still hunting in the mountains, can find a place to hide from the rain. If he gets wet in the mountains, the body heat will continue to decrease, which is very dangerous. But she couldn't show the slightest uneasiness, otherwise her mother would only be more scared. The two of them sat there stupidly for a whole day until night fell. Chapter 14, Not Allowed to Go Out. The rain continued to fall for 2 days, but fortunately the rain was much lighter and visibility was much higher. You could see the situation in the yard even from the house. Yunxi had been secretly sharpening arrows before going to bed at night, preparing to go up the mountain to find her father. Now she was particularly grateful that the yard at home was built in a 3-entry style, and her room was close to the mountain outside. If it was the original room, if she secretly sharpened arrows in the middle of the night, the sound would have alarmed her mother, not to mention running out to find someone. After making the weapons, she checked the things she had prepared again, wanting to see if there was anything missing. Bows and arrows, backpacks. That's right. She clapped her hands suddenly. She suddenly remembered that her mother was with her during the day, so she could only sneak out at night. Without light, She couldn't see anything. She had to bring a torch. Of course, bringing a torch would also make her a target, but at least if her father saw the fire, he would guess that there was someone and would go in her direction. After preparing at home for a few days, in the evening of the day she was about to leave, the center of the village suddenly became noisy, with the sounds of running and shouting intertwined. Mother was startled by the noise outside, and she covered her chest and took a few quick breaths. Yunxi put down the things in her hands and quickly patted her back. Mother will go outside to see what happened. Hearing the noisy sounds outside, Yunxi's heart sank involuntarily. Regardless of her daughter's objection, she quickly changed her clothes. However, just as she was putting on her shoes, someone knocked on the door of the Lu family. Yunxi was urged by her mother and had to go to open the door first. Lu family, is it you? Where is your mother? The visitor was an aunt in the village, and her face was not very good. My mother is in the house, and what happened in the village? Alice, the aunt sighed deeply, touched her head, with a trace of pity in her eyes. You and your mother should go to see Dr. Sun. When Yunxiang came out, she just heard what the visitor said, and her body couldn't help but stiffen. Both mother and daughter had a bad feeling in their hearts. They hurried to Dr. Sun's house. Lu family, you should be prepared. Dahu's wounds. Dr. Sun looked at their dazed appearance, shook his head and sighed deeply. This sigh seemed to be in Yunxi's heart. Looking at her father lying on the bed, her heart seemed to be blocked and she couldn't breathe. Blood kept flowing from the hideous wound, staining the floor red. The other villagers left quietly, leaving the space for the family of 3. Lu Dahu smiled palely. Do you still remember the Lu family archery that Dad taught you? The rest is in the woodshed, go and find it. From now on, there will be only you and mother left at home. You have to take care of yourself. After saying that, he subconsciously raised his hand, but found that he could only raise his hand to the height of one knuckle with all his strength. Yunxi held back her tears and stretched her head over so that his hand could be pressed on her head. Dad, I will take good care of Mom, don't worry, she said softly. After that, Yunxi left the room, leaving the room to her parents. When she walked out of the door, she heard the faint sighs of the villagers outside. Why is Dahu so badly injured? Alice, I heard that it suddenly rained, and he slipped and fell down. Half of his hands and feet were injured. Who knew that he was unlucky to run into a wild boar? This is also bad luck. It's a good thing that Dr. Sun met him when he went up the mountain, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to see him for the last time. The voices of the villagers gradually faded away. Yunxi covered his chest, closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths. It's so uncomfortable. Since his father left, Yunxi has never left home again, and has been accompanying his mother during the day. Fortunately, there is a vegetable garden in the backyard of the house, with all kinds of vegetables, so there is no need to worry about having nothing to eat. Or rather, mother is now staring at her closely and not letting her run out. In the past, her mother only taught her in simple terms, and she could go out and play as she pleased. But now, throughout the day, except for eating and bathing time, her mother would hold her tightly, and even forbid her to practice the ancestral archery. Once she wanted to practice martial arts, her mother showed unusual resistance. Yunxi could only temporarily put aside her training and concentrate on accompanying her mother. The two sat together quietly, with the needles in their hands flying non-stop. Mom, do you think the flowers I embroidered are beautiful? It took Yunxi several days to embroider a flower with difficulty. She handed the embroidery cloth to her mother and glanced at her mother's face. Am I very good? The legendary genius refers to people like me, right? Looking at her mother's pale face, she barely suppressed her worries and pretended to be complacent, trying to make her mother happy. Yunxi took the embroidery cloth, examined it carefully, and nodded with a smile. Of course you are a genius. The handkerchiefs you embroider now can be sold for about 10 cents in the town. When you become proficient, you can embroider a handkerchief in less than a day. Sachets are generally 15 to 20 cents. However, if your craftsmanship is particularly good, even sachets and handkerchiefs can be sold at a good price. She took out the embroidered handkerchiefs and sachets in the embroidery basket and introduced them one by one. You can try to embroider a small sachet, let me see how you do. Yunxi did not say anything, and began to embroider seriously according to the techniques taught by her mother. Yunxiang glanced at her daughter beside her and sighed secretly. She knew that her daughter wanted to learn the Lu family archery and that her husband hoped that the ancestral archery skills could be passed down, but she really couldn't accept it. She had already lost her husband, and she must not lose her daughter again. In the past, her husband was fine when he came back from hunting, and she was relieved, but what about her daughter? Girls are naturally not as strong as men, and she is only 9 years old, still a child. How can she feel at ease when she goes out hunting? Her husband has not taught her all his skills yet, so she can only learn by herself. But reading alone is not the same as having someone to guide her. After thinking about it for a long time at home, she finally decided that instead of letting her daughter learn hunting and go to the mountains for adventures every day, it would be better for her to learn embroidery from her. Although her embroidery level is not at the level of masters, it is also very good. The large pieces she embroidered can be sold for hundreds of taels of silver. Except for those embroidery masters, no one can compare with her. As time passed, Lu Yunxi's embroidery level also improved significantly, reaching the elementary level. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. How are you doing? It was noon that day. Mom, what do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. Before she finished her words, she spat out a mouthful of blood and slowly fell on the bed. It was like a slow-motion shot, but Lu Yunxi was panicked. Mom, her brain seemed to be severely whipped, and she couldn't help but scream. She took a step back involuntarily, bumped into the cabinet, and fell to the ground. The pain made her barely calm down. She quickly sniffed her breath and found that she was still breathing, so she wanted to pick up her mother. The hateful thing was that she didn't have enough strength, and there was no way to carry her mother away. She gritted her teeth and immediately ran to Dr. Sun's house. Quick! Run faster! Run faster! She regretted it so much. How great it would be if she had trained seriously when she was a child. Wouldn't she be able to go up the mountain to find her father earlier without fear of danger? If she had enough strength now, wouldn't she be able to carry her mother directly to Dr. Sun? If she had learned medical skills from her mother, she wouldn't be so helpless now. Unfortunately, there is everything in this world, but there is no regret medicine. Wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes and sniffing, Lu Yunxi forced herself to calm down. Fortunately, when she arrived at Dr. Sun's place, she managed to stay calm and did not cry so much that she could not even speak clearly. Doctor, please go see my mother. She just suddenly vomited blood. Dr. Sun was startled, and quickly packed up some commonly used medicines, picked up his medicine box, and hurriedly followed her to the Lu family. Feeling the patient's pulse, Dr. Sun's face became more and more serious, and his brows became more and more furrowed. Lu Yunxi felt her heart sinking. After a long while, Dr. Sun withdrew his hand, stroked his beard and sighed. He gave Lu Yuniang acupuncture and barely saved her life. The two came to the door. Zir, your mother was not in good health when she was young, and now she is depressed. Even if I prescribe medicine, it will not work. You must know that heart disease needs to be treated with heart medicine. He patted her shoulder with a heavy face. You should prepare in advance. If your mother continues like this, I'm afraid, less than a year, Lu Yunxi repeated unconsciously. After a long time, she heard the movement of her mother in the house, which made her come back to her senses. She moved her stiff body and hurried to the well to wash her face to make her look better, and then she went into the house. Mom, are you okay? She subconsciously held her mother's hand, wanting to tell her not to be so sad, wanting to tell her to live a good life, wanting. However, when she looked up and saw her mother's gentle smile, she couldn't say anything. Dad and mother actually had a good relationship, but they didn't show it clearly. After Dad left, Mom was probably barely alive for her own sake. However, her mother was only alive, but her heart had long been dead. Why did she accompany her mother every day and dare not leave? During this period after Dad left, Mom would always be distracted while embroidering, or sigh suddenly when she was halfway through wiping the table, or stand there stupidly when she saw something. Mom didn't even realize her trance. During this period of time, she was afraid almost every moment, afraid that Mom would suddenly leave. However, the more gentle Mom was to her, the more she didn't want to be so selfish. She couldn't speak up and force Mom to stay with her. Lu Yuniang smiled gently and touched her head. I'm sorry to worry you, Mom is fine, maybe it's just an old illness. Lu Yunxi held back her tears and tried to smile. Both mother and daughter smiled hard, pretending that nothing happened. However, as time passed, Mom's body became weaker and weaker. Even though Yunxi tried her best to get milk and gave Mom 5 eggs a day, her body did not get better. As for meat, after Dad left, Mom was unwilling to eat meat anyway, and also warned her to be attentive in mourning. Uncontrollable pain gripped Yunxi's heart. She could only spend more time with her mother, and even slept with her mother at night, so that she would not be unable to discover any accidents in time. Shortly after Yunxi turned 10, her mother's body could no longer support her. Mom, she held her mother's hand and forced a smile, fearing that she would make her mother feel uneasy. She wanted to say that she would live well alone and that she could support herself. She wanted to comfort her mother and tell her that she didn't have to worry about anything. But her throat seemed to be blocked and she couldn't say a word. "Zir, my good daughter, I'm sorry. I have to go to accompany your father. I'm afraid your father has been waiting for a long time." Even though she was about to leave the world, Yunxi still smiled gently and touched her face gently. "You should live well alone in the future. Your life has just begun." Yunxi put her face against her mother's hand and nodded vigorously. "Mother knows that you want to carry forward Lu family archery, but hunting is really too dangerous. You should practice embroidery in the future. When you do better, you will be able to live a much better life." Yunxiang hesitated for a while, but still told her daughter. "At worst, when you have children in the future, let one of them be surnamed Lu, or you adopt a child and let him inherit the Lu family's ancestral archery in the future." Yunxi paused for a moment, just nodded, but did not respond. "By the way, go open my dressing table and take the box inside." After telling her this, her mother suddenly thought of something and urged her repeatedly. Yunxi found the box and watched her mother open it, revealing the contents. The box contained a lot of jewelry, including earrings, hairpins, necklaces, etc. Most of them were silver jewelry, not very luxurious, but the styles were very ingenious. "These jewelry were given to me by your father. You can keep them for your own use in the future," she said, shaking her hands. With a kata sound, she opened the secret compartment and took out the things inside. There was a lush jade bracelet, half a jade pendant with exquisite patterns, and a piece of paper in the secret compartment. The paper was the house deed of the village, which would be passed on to her in the future. "This jade bracelet is a treasure left to me by my mother. It is said that it can help us when we need it, but I have never discovered its magic." Stroking the jade bracelet, Yunxiang's eyes revealed nostalgia. "My mother left when I was very young. I remember the time." Yunxi sat quietly by the bed, listening to her mother telling stories about her grandmother. If possible, mother hopes that when you grow up, you can go to see mother's sister for mother. This half of the jade pendant was originally one piece, but later it was separated. Half is with me and the other half is with my sister. Ahem. I don't know how Zuniang is doing." Yunxiang's eyes were full of tenderness and nostalgia. As she spoke, she gradually closed her eyes. Yunxi held back her tears, watched her gradually lose her breath, and forced a smile to promise, "Don't worry, Mom, I will definitely find my aunt." Just 1 year after sending her father away, she sent her mother away. Chapter 16 Hunting in the Mountains. Yunxi put all the exquisite jewelry in her mother's box and buried the whole jewelry box with her mother. After all, it was a gift from her father to her mother. Only the jade bracelet, jade pendant and house deed were left. According to the ancient rules, she changed into plain clothes, did not eat meat or go out, and stayed at home to mourn for her parents. During the days of squatting at home, she changed her previous lazy style and became hard-working. Although it was not 996, her work and rest schedule was also based on the curriculum of elementary school students. She studied and trained during the day, stopped training at 5 in the afternoon, and had leisure time in the evening. Of course, her courses were not mathematics and English, but archery, embroidery and so on. After all, whether she had to support her family by herself or go out to find her aunt, she would run away without any skills. How could she starve? Time flies, and in a blink of an eye, a year has passed. Yunxi is in filial piety. Mingming is only 11 years old, but she seems to have grown up suddenly. Li Dia, who was born in the same year, was also locked up in the house by Grandma Li. She began to learn needlework, cooking and other skills in preparation for her future marriage. And Yunxi also officially started her hunting career. Of course, she had not eaten meat for a whole year, so she lost a lot of weight. Of course, she would not be so reckless as to go up the mountain to hunt tigers directly. At first, she just came to the edge of the farmland and hunted field mice. When she went home, she would pick up some snails or get some fish and shrimp to eat. After all, she really didn't dare to eat field mouse meat. After all, she hadn't eaten meat for a year. At first, she just made porridge with a little fish and shrimp, and the amount of meat increased day by day. After eating fish and shrimp for 2 months, she finally got tired of these things. She opened her system panel, name, Yunxi, identity, Mushroom Village Villager, level 10, primary, age 11, appearance 90, strength 105, agility 100, spirit 101, title, natural enemy of voles. Seeing that both her mental strength and agility had reached 100, Yunxi felt that she could try to go up the mountain to hunt. It took 2 days for Yunxi to prepare a large number of arrows, make a lot of dry food for herself, and get a backpack before going out. When she set out, it was in the morning when the sky was slightly bright. She quickly crossed the grass and climbed up the mountain. Fortunately, the mountain near her home was not particularly steep. She could barely climb up without using her hands and feet, but she couldn't climb fast. There were indeed more things in the forest than at her doorstep. The mushrooms here were fat and big, some were even as big as her 2 palms, and various herbs and fruit trees grew very lushly. Her eyes lit up instantly. With the help of the detection technique, Yunxi avoided poisonous species and quickly picked various herbs and food. However, mountain climbing is really a physical job. In her previous life, she went to mountainous areas that have become tourist attractions. There are either cable cars or stairs. It is really tiring to climb such an original mountain. Before she climbed to 1/3 of the way, she was already sweating. Looking at the full backpack of herbs, fruits and mushrooms, she simply sat on the ground to rest. Otherwise, if she encounters danger later, it will be a big deal if she can't keep up with her physical strength. At this moment, a rabbit jumped and appeared in her sight. Almost the moment she saw it, a sharp arrow shot out with a whoosh. It's not in vain to practice hitting voles during this period. After hitting hundreds of voles, she can already shoot arrows instantly. This rabbit is much bigger than a vole, and it is easier to hit. In addition, her strength has increased now. One arrow made the rabbit stiffen for a while. Before the rabbit can react, the second arrow was shot out. The rabbit's legs twitched and it fell to the ground. Yunxi went forward to pick up the rabbit and wiped the corner of her mouth with a smile on her face. She didn't dare to eat field mice, so how could she not dare to eat rabbits? Thinking of the various ways to cook rabbits, she couldn't help swallowing her saliva. Looking at the sky, she simply roasted the rabbit directly on the mountain. She didn't bring much dry food with her, basically some dry cakes, which were too tasteless to chew dry. The cakes with rabbit meat would taste even better. In the next few days, Yunxi didn't continue to climb up, but just kept harvesting rabbits in the same place, and roasted rabbits on time when it was time to eat. Fortunately, this mountain is as strange as the farmland. Rabbits are like leeks, one crop after another, and they can never be harvested. In just a few days, she killed hundreds of rabbits and got the title of Natural Enemy of Wild Rabbits. This title is much better than the Natural Enemy of Field Mice. The Natural Enemy of Field Mice only adds 1 point of strength, while the Natural Enemy of Wild Rabbits adds 5 points of strength. After staying in the mountains for 5 days and getting the title, Yunxi was afraid that her neighbors would worry if they couldn't see her all the time, so she prepared to go down the mountain. However, at this moment, a shocking and mighty vibration sound came from not far away. She immediately became alert, with a fierce aura on her body, and raised her bow and arrow to the direction where the sound came from. Almost at the moment she raised her bow and arrow, she saw a huge monster swooping down from the mountain. After seeing the thing clearly, Yunxi's face changed and her eyes suddenly sank. Oops. It's a wild boar. And it's not a normal-sized wild boar. Looking at the sharp fangs, the strong body, and the murderous eyes, she gasped. This wild boar is almost as big as a cow. It was the first time she saw an ancient wild boar. It turned out that the ancient wild boars were so big. No wonder everyone's face changed when they mentioned wild boars. Seeing the wild boar rushing straight towards her, she seized the opportunity and dodged the wild boar's impact just before the wild boar hit her. Seeing the wild boar continue to run down the mountain and about to run away, she was about to breathe a sigh of relief. Who knew that the wild boar would turn around and run back? After dodging the wild boar's attack several times in a row, she finally understood. This wild boar was targeting her. Yunxi was unhappy. No matter who goes up a mountain to hunt, they will not be happy if they are treated as prey by animals. However, she couldn't do anything to this wild boar for a while, it was so big. Although she still had a lot of arrows left in her hand, enough to kill more than a dozen rabbits. But for hunting wild boars, these arrows were not too many. Even if she won in the end, her physical strength should have been exhausted by then. No matter how you think about it, fighting a wild boar is not a good choice. She had to throw away all the rabbit meat in her hand, trying to bribe the wild boar to let it go. The wild boar stopped attacking when it saw the rabbit meat. Seeing that the wild boar was enjoying the rabbit meat, she carefully circumvented the wild boar's heel-like body and tried to slip down the mountain. Chapter 17 Wild Boar King. Unexpectedly, the wild boar ate the rabbit meat that she had prepared for a few days in just a few bites, and then chased her again. Yunxi. This wild boar is just going to catch her, right? Seeing that the wild boar had to chase her, she gradually became angry. Taking the opportunity to dodge, she quickly observed and found a big tree with a well-developed root system. She stood in front of the big tree, her feet stuck at the root position, so as not to slip and fall down the mountain. After standing firmly, she raised the bow and arrow in her hand again, and the arrows shot continuously. It was as if she was back to the first time she shot a field mouse, and her heart was beating fast. The killing power of the field mouse is limited, but the wild boar is much larger, and the position on the mountain is limited. Yunxi had to dodge the wild boar's attack while shooting arrows, and her rhythm slowed down a lot. Fortunately, after adapting for a while, she was able to speed up gradually. The wild boar rushed over at a high speed. She dodged quickly and shot 2 arrows at the same time. The wild boar rushed over again, and she dodged again and shot again. This was repeated. Unfortunately, the wild boar had thick skin and flesh, and every time she hit it, she would get -5 or -6. The blood volume was reduced too little. About a quarter of an hour later, she took the time to wipe the sweat from her forehead and found that the blood bar was less than 1/6 of it. Yunxi frowned. If she continued to fight like this, she might not have enough arrows. If she failed to defeat the wild boar, her life would be in danger. Thinking of this, she stopped shooting arrows. While avoiding the wild boar's impact, she paid attention to the environment around her, hoping to find something good. Until she saw a huge, bright mushroom, her heart jumped suddenly. This mushroom looks familiar. It seems to be some kind of poisonous mushroom. She subconsciously used the detection technique. A poisonous mushroom, please do not touch it directly. If you accidentally touch it for more than 30 seconds, you will be poisoned. And Yunxi glanced at the introduction, gritted her teeth, turned her head and looked at the wild boar sprinting towards this side. She quickly rubbed the arrowhead on the mushroom cap a few times, and then carefully shot the arrow out. This arrow really worked. After the familiar -5, the words -10 and -11 appeared continuously. The wild boar seemed to have noticed something was wrong, and screamed. Anger seemed to be burning in its 2 round eyes. Its 2 fangs gleamed and rushed over more fiercely. Yunxi, who had gotten the sweetness, quickly pushed the arrowhead at the mushroom again. After shooting dozens of arrows with mushroom toxins in a row, the wild boar's health bar was finally emptied. It fell to the ground with a thump. Yunxi looked at the wild boar lying on the ground, and the breath that had been held in her heart finally relaxed. Her hands and feet, which had been tense all the time, suddenly relaxed. She shook her whole body, couldn't even stand steadily, and fell to the ground, gasping for breath. At this moment, congratulations on defeating the Wild Boar King and getting the title Wild Boar King. The mechanical sound of the system rang in her ears. Yunxi was a little surprised. She opened the system panel and found that the system had an additional settings section. After opening it, she found that the system had upgraded itself and had added a voice broadcast function. Yunxi thought about it and did not turn off the voice broadcast. After all, with the system reminding herself, it might be easier to detect danger. After turning off the system, she took a look at the wild boar and poisonous mushrooms around her. She felt unsafe and quickly moved a little to the side, away from them, and then closed her eyes to rest. This time, she also lost a lot of blood to deal with this wild boar. If she had known earlier, she should have prepared some blood-replenishing food. Unfortunately, the dry food she prepared not only gave her a sense of fullness, but also had a little anti-toxic effect, but it couldn't make her blood recover. She closed her eyes and rested for a while, and when her physical strength was almost restored, she was ready to pack up and leave. A burst of white light suddenly came out of her chest. Yunxi was stunned. What is this? She took out the sachet she had placed on her chest and was stunned for a moment. The sachet contained the jade bracelet that her mother had left for her. Because her mother said it was a family heirloom given to her by her grandmother, she carried it with her. Who knew it would glow now? She opened the sachet she had specially sewn and took a closer look. She saw that the blood flowing from her wound was absorbed by the bracelet little by little. This weird scene made her eyelids jump. What the hell? This jade bracelet actually absorbs blood. She quickly reached out and wiped the blood on it, but she forgot that the wound on her hand was still bleeding. The light of the jade bracelet became brighter. The next second, there was a whoosh sound in her mind. The jade bracelet disappeared. Yunxi suddenly had information about the jade bracelet in her mind. It turned out that there were immortals among her mother's ancestors, and this jade bracelet was made by them and left for future generations. The bracelet is actually a space that can keep things fresh indefinitely. Things are the same when they are stored, and they will be the same when they are taken out, and the space is infinite, so you can put as many things as you want in it. Infinite space. This legendary treasure. Yunxi was so excited. Good guy. Now she no longer needs to worry about how to use the system backpack. With infinite space, that rubbish, limited, and unknown system backpack that doesn't know how to take things out, just let it roll aside. Roar. A loud roar scared the birds in the forest away. Yunxi's face changed slightly, and she quickly put the mushrooms, wild boars, and herbs she picked into the space, and ran down the mountain. She only had 2 arrows left, and if she encountered danger, she shuddered unconsciously and quickened her pace. However, this experience also made her understand that she still had to carry some poisonous things with her in the future. In case of danger again, she would not be so lucky every time to find poison around her. Fortunately, on the way down the mountain, although she was terrified, she finally returned home safely without any danger. At the door of the Liu family, Grandma Li was anxiously walking around, her face full of worry. When she saw her, her eyes lit up, but when she saw the blood on her body, her face immediately changed. Yunxi, where have you been these days? What's wrong with your blood? Are you injured? Where are you injured? Let me see, Grandma, I went to the mountains to hunt. Don't worry, I know my limits. She patted Grandma Li's shoulder and lied to comfort her with her eyes open. This blood is not my blood, it's the blood of the prey. It's a pity that the prey is too big, I can't move it, so I can only let other animals eat it. Otherwise, I can ask you to taste the prey I hunted. In fact, it was because the wild boar was poisoned by mushrooms, and the meat was not edible. What a pity. If she had prepared more arrows, she could have eaten pork now. Grandma Li was suddenly happy. Girl, it's good that you have this intention. You don't need to bring me anything specially. After that, she became worried again. Yunxi, you'd better be careful when going up the mountain in the future. The mountain is too dangerous. You are a girl, how about this? You learn to cook well, and then I will see if I can find a man for you. After you get married, you don't have to go up the mountain to hunt so hard. Yunxi twitched her eyes and firmly rejected Grandma Li's kindness. Chapter 18, Letters from Ancestors. After taking a combat bath, Yunxi lay on the bed and rolled around comfortably. After staying in the mountains for a few days, she had to stay alert even when sleeping at night, and she was fighting non-stop during the day. In fact, she was already exhausted. This was also thanks to her physical strength and agility to 100, otherwise she might not be able to come back safely this time. The creatures in this forest are really not to be underestimated. Thinking about it, she gradually fell asleep. A dreamless night. The next morning, when she was about to make breakfast for herself, Yunxi heard a knock on the door. Yunxi, Grandma said that the mustard greens at home are growing very well, and she made mustard greens dumplings and sent some to you to try. Dia looked happy. She looked down at the full dumplings in the bowl, and couldn't help but feel warm in her heart. Grandma Li is taking special care of herself. Thank Grandma for me. I was just about to have breakfast. She pulled Dia into the house. Dia, have you eaten yet? Do you want to eat together? Dia followed her force and went into the house together, looking around curiously. I have already had breakfast. Your new house is so beautiful. When she came before, She was busy eating the dishes when the Lu family was setting up the housewarming wine. She didn't pay attention to what the house looked like. The topic changed so abruptly, but Lu Yunxi had already gotten used to it. This was how her friends were, sometimes windy and sometimes rainy. If you want to see it, I'll take you to see it. Have breakfast first. Li Dia pushed her to sit down at the table. I'm not in a hurry. Looking at her friend's leisurely look, Lu Yunxi was slightly surprised. Don't you have to learn to cook or dance today? There are many talented people in their village. Everyone has one or two skills, and they are willing to teach them to the people in the village. So although the children in the village don't have to go to the fields to work, they have to be busy in cram schools, not idle at home. Hearing her question, Li Dia seemed a little embarrassed. Grandma and the master gave me 2 days off so that I could go home and think about what I plan to do in the future. Eating mustard dumplings happily, she looked up at Dia's worried eyes and asked, have you thought about it? Dia lay on the table a little disappointed. I don't know, it's really hard to choose. Everyone said that if I continue to learn dancing, I may not be able to get married and have children in the future. Grandma asked me to think it over. She said that I would be very pitiful if I couldn't get married, if I follow Grandma to learn cooking and farming. I don't know what my future husband will be like. If my husband is not good, I'm afraid I will regret it. Thinking of what Grandma Li said yesterday to help her find a partner, Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes. Grandma Li is still so traditional. She finished the dumplings in a few bites, touching her belly with satisfaction. Why can't I get married if I learn to dance? Is that what Grandma Wang said? No, Dia shook her head, but I heard from the people in the village that no one in the dance hall is married. Why don't you ask Grandma Wang? Is it that everyone chooses not to get married? Or does the dance hall not allow people to get married? The difference between the two is huge, in her opinion. The villagers think it's pitiful that Grandma Wang has never married, but she thinks it's very likely that Grandma Wang chose not to get married. Grandma Wang is a free and easy person. Apart from being obsessed with dancing, she doesn't care about other things at all. Li Dia didn't understand why, but she nodded seriously. From childhood to adulthood, when I encountered something I couldn't solve, I would come to my friends and she would help me solve it. Since she said so, I would just do it. After sending away the uneasy Dia, Lu Yunxi cleaned the house, then opened her space bracelet and began to look through the things stored in it. A poisonous mushroom and a dead wild boar. Unfortunately, these are all poisonous and cannot be eaten. Lu Yunxi flipped down and found that there was more. When she saw the things her ancestors stored in the space, she was shocked. It turned out to be a cultivation method. When she thought of her future self pulling out a giant sword, shouting, and chopping a wild boar with one sword, she couldn't help but smile. It turned out that she was not traveling through an ordinary ancient world. It was a world of cultivation. After calming down, she hurried to look at the space. There was more than one method. There were so many methods that filled several rooms. She could choose whatever she wanted. In addition to these methods, the space was also filled with many elixirs, herbs, clothes, weapons, etc., as well as the notes of the owner of the space. Lu Yunxi thought for a while, went outside to catch dozens of big fish, cooked them all, and sent some to Grandma Li next door. When she returned home, she locked the door and prepared to retreat to cultivate immortals. She pondered for a while and first found a book called Basic Knowledge of Immortal Cultivation to read. So spiritual roots are needed to cultivate immortals. Rubbing her hands, Lu Yunxi found a spiritual disc for measuring spiritual roots. According to the book, you can know your qualifications immediately by putting your hands on it. She put her hand on it. 1 second passed, 2 seconds passed, 3 minutes passed. She was a little unwilling and continued to put her hand on it until a quarter of an hour passed. But there was still no movement on the spiritual disc. Lu Yunxi was a little disappointed. It seems that she does not have the qualifications to cultivate immortals. The skills, treasures, elixirs, and weapons are all ready, but there is no spiritual root. The dream of cultivating immortals was shattered. She was about to close the space, but suddenly saw the handwritten notes of her ancestors, all written by different people. She hesitated for a moment and took out a few books to read. Humph! Those who dare to look down on me, remember them all. One day, I will become the strongest person on the continent. You actually threw me out of the treasure pavilion. This dog-eyed waiter. Don't despise a poor young man. Lu Yunxi read a few sentences, twitched his eyes, and changed a book. Alice. If I had known not to rush to build a foundation when I was young, I would have built a foundation at the age of 12, which caused my height to never change. The female cultivator next door has a curvy figure, but there was a fight on the hill next door again. Those sword cultivators were so poor, but they were still fighting. I don't know how much money they will have to pay later. It's true that too much debt is not a worry. I heard that the marriage of the eldest brother and eldest sister of the next door sect fell through, and it became the marriage of the eldest brother and the youngest sister. This youngest sister is really weird. Everyone in the sect is on her side. That eldest sister was so good to them, but they drove her out of the sect. Wait. They will definitely regret it. After reading a whole book of complaints and gossip, Yunxi was very satisfied and changed another book. The spiritual energy is getting less and less. I heard that in the past, Yuanying were as numerous as dogs, and Jinden was everywhere. Now, I, who has just established my foundation, can become the senior sister of the sect. I heard that the true masters of the sect gathered together to calculate the secrets of heaven. The spiritual energy of the whole world is going to disappear, and people in the future will never be able to cultivate immortals again. Yunxi's face changed, and she suddenly thought of the silent spiritual disc. After reading the whole notebook, she felt a little regretful. It turned out that 1,000 years ago, the spiritual energy was completely gone. Maybe it was not necessarily that she did not have the qualifications to cultivate immortals, but that the spiritual energy dissipated, and the spiritual disc would never react. No one in the whole world could cultivate immortals anymore. Chapter 19, The King of Voles. Yunxi. The knocking sound and shouting startled Yunxi, who was deep in thought. She looked around, trying to find a place to hide the notebook. It took her a while to come back to her senses, and she slapped her head. How could she forget about the space? Throwing the book back into the space, she quickly opened the door. Yunxi, you are so amazing. I asked the master, and the master said that we can get married, but the girls in the dance studio are too serious about learning dance, so no one cares about getting married, and the time has passed by in a hurry. Dia said about the girls in the dance studio, with a sigh. It's a pity, they are so beautiful, but they missed the best time to get married. Yunxi. She didn't think that everyone in the dance studio was so regretful. Maybe they were delaying on purpose. She poured Dia a cup of sugar water, but still did not express her guess. So have you decided to learn to dance? Grandma Wang said you have learned enough. Do you want to go to the town to continue learning? Dia nodded, with some expectation and nervousness on her face. Yes, because everyone in our village is in the town. If I go to other cities, my master is afraid that no one will be able to take care of me. Dancing is different from other jobs. Most people go out to venture at the age of 18, but dancing is better for younger people because they need to go to the dance studio to train with others. The longer the cooperation, the more tacit understanding they will have. Grandma has written to my parents, asking if they can come back and take me to the town. Dia held her chin, her eyes full of smiles, looking full of expectations for the future. If my parents are not free, Grandma said she would see who in the village is going to the town, and then ask someone to take me to the town. Then I'll make you some delicious food to bring with you. Yunxi blinked. Dia, you dance so well, you will definitely become the best dancer. After sending away the embarrassed Dia and closing the door, her face darkened. She didn't expect Dia's parents to come and pick her up to the town. They have been neighbors for so many years, and she was born knowing things. Who doesn't know who? Dia has never seen her parents. Under the brainwashing of Grandma Li, she thought that her parents were very good to her, and she was very happy every time they mentioned them. Grandma Li occasionally received letters from the town, which talked about Li Dabao. Li Dabao is Dia's twin brother, but he was brought to the town by Li's parents to live with him. I heard that he was sent to private school before. One in the town, he can eat a lot of fish and meat and can study. The other in the village, he can only eat meat a few times a year. Dia didn't even know that she had such a brother. Yunxi is about half a year older than Dia. At that time, Aunt Li gave birth to a child. She happened to be basking in the sun at the door and saw Uncle Li sitting at the door next door. It seemed that because he thought it was unlucky for a woman to give birth, Uncle Li refused to enter the yard and just sat at the door of the yard waiting. The first one was a boy, and Uncle Li was so happy. When he found out that the second one was a girl, his whole face changed, and he showed a look of disgust directly, and he really didn't hide it at all. You know, at that time everyone was like robots. But the Li family could still show such expressions when giving birth. She deeply suspected that favoring boys over girls was the personality of the Li couple. After the villagers became normal, the Li family never asked about Daya's situation, as if Daya didn't exist at all. Lu Yunxi shook her head helplessly. Although she knew about this, she couldn't tell Daya. She couldn't say, Daya, your parents favor boys over girls, right? So she could only take advantage of this time to prepare more food and supplies for Daya, so that if Daya really went up, she wouldn't starve to death. Lu Yunxi was crazy about hunting rabbits in the mountains. This time she didn't even go up the mountain, but just wandered around at the foot of the mountain. Unexpectedly, she really found rabbits. Now she was too lazy to go up the mountain. Going up was not only physically demanding, but also very dangerous. The chance of wild boars appearing at the foot of the mountain was much smaller. After that, she squatted at the foot of the mountain to hunt rabbits. She didn't know how long it had been, until there were only about 20 arrows left. She stopped and prepared to go home. However, as soon as she turned around, she ran into her old acquaintance, an old familiar animal. Looking at the field mouse in front of her, she set up her bow and arrow again. The field mice at the foot of the mountain are different from the field mice in the farmland. They are twice as big as the field mice in the farmland, and their eyes are much more fierce. Of course, there is another possibility, that is, this field mouse is the field mouse king that the villagers have been looking for. There were all kinds of thoughts in my mind, but in fact, only a moment passed. The arrow shot out and hit the field mouse. The field mouse was furious, and a red light flashed on its body. A strange light circle slowly grew larger, but before it could burst out its strongest attack, another arrow shot. The field mouse king's hind legs twitched and fell to the ground. Ling. Congratulations on defeating the field mouse king and winning the title of field mouse king. She raised her eyebrows. This field mouse king is much easier to fight than the wild boar king, right? But, did I see a red light just now? She walked forward to herself. Except for the size, there is no difference between the field mouse king and the field mouse. What light circle? It seems that I saw it wrong, but there will be no problem with her eyes, right? Lu Yunxi threw the field mouse king into the space and hurried home. However, as soon as she entered the village, she was startled by the villagers. Uncle, aunt, grandfather, grandmother, what are you doing here? Seeing the villagers staring at her, her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the secret of her space bracelet was exposed? Lu Yunxi secretly became alert, but her face remained calm. You girl, an old man's face was red, and he knocked the floor hard with his cane. She couldn't help but take a step back, and her hand holding the bow and arrow tightened. But in the next second, she was grabbed by everyone. Why didn't you tell us? If someone hadn't passed by while chopping wood, they wouldn't have known that you had defeated the Vole King. Yeah, the Vole King is not easy to fight. You should have asked us to help. What if you get hurt? Yunxi is so amazing. She actually defeated the Vole King by herself. This Vole has been bullying our village for so long, it's time to settle the score. Seeing everyone's excited faces, Lu Yunxi was stunned. Huh? Wasn't it her secret that was exposed? Lu Yunxi was surrounded by the excited villagers and came to the edge of the farmland. It was not until she saw the scene in the farmland that she knew why the villagers were so excited. All the voles that were originally swaggering in the farmland left and retreated outside the farmland. From now on, the food in the village will no longer be destroyed by field mice. Yunxi, you are the benefactor of our entire village. The village chief was so excited that his hands were shaking, and his eyes were filled with tears. We haven't found the field mouse king for so many years, but you found it. If it weren't for you, we don't know how long we would have to worry about field mice. Yunxi, you have made such a great contribution to the village. What reward do you want? Seeing the serious expression on the village chief's face, Lu Yunxi laughed dryly. I am also a member of the village. I am very happy to be able to help. As for the reward, no need. Chapter 20 Not a good girl. Yes. You have done such a great thing, I must reward you. The village chief ignored a refusal and turned to discuss with the villagers. Finally, the village chief gave her a large bag of dried fish brought back from the town as a reward. This dried fish was actually blue grade. Although it did not add permanent attributes, it could restore health, and Lu Yunxi was very satisfied. So far, she has not been able to make any blue grade dishes. In order to express their gratitude, other villagers also sent her things, such as firewood, vegetables, fruits, grains, eggs, etc. Looking at the pile of things, she was a little funny and a little moved. After that, It took a month for Yunxi to make thousands of dried meat from the rabbit meat she had hunted before, and also made a lot of dried vegetables, dried fruits, etc. She planned to pack a little of each for Dia to take to the town to eat. Especially the dried meat, which can replenish physical strength. However, before she packed the dried meat and sent it over, she heard the noise next door. She curiously leaned to the door and put her ear against the door to listen to the movement outside. In the past, she might not be able to hear the outside voices, but with her practice, her hearing has improved a lot, and the people next door are talking very loudly, so she never thought about covering up. Ergao's wife, you are back. Grandma Li's voice was full of excitement. Ergao. Hearing this familiar name, Yunxi widened her eyes. Isn't Uncle Li next door named Ergao? Dia's parents actually came to pick her up. Could it be that the uncle and aunt of the Li family have really changed and no longer favor boys over girls? She touched her chin and thought for a while, thinking, it's very likely. Since Grandma Wang has been a dance teacher in the town, there are naturally many positions for women, and the status of girls should be much higher. Under the influence of what they see and hear, it is normal for the uncle and aunt of the Li family to pay attention to girls. Moreover, after the villagers changed, many people's original settings and personalities changed. At this time, there was movement outside again. It seemed that Dia was a little shy, and Grandma Li urged her to call her parents. After a while, Dia's embarrassed voice was heard. Dad, Mom. Yunxi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Dia was usually a bit careless, but she was a bit shy when facing strangers. Fortunately, she finally called people. Dia was fair and clean, with a little baby fat on her face. She looked very cute. Anyone who saw her would like her. I think the uncle and aunt of the Li family would be very happy to see their daughter so cute. Pa! A loud noise interrupted her thoughts. Yunxi's face changed. What's the sound? She stuck to the door panel tightly, listening hard to know what happened outside. You dead girl. We are not at home, you are so disobedient. Are you looking for death? And dancing. You are so ugly, and you have the nerve to go out. It's so embarrassing. You are a girl, don't you know how to cook well, just want to go out. How can you be so unfaithful to your wife? Along with the bursts of scolding, there was a burst of crackling sound. I thought there were firecrackers outside. Then, a low cry sounded. Then, there was a hoarse laugh from a person who was in the voice change period. Haha. It's so funny. You're so grown up and still crying. How shameful. Yunxi's face was gloomy. She had already guessed what was going on outside. When she thought of Dia being beaten, she felt a fire rising from the bottom of her heart to the sky. That's it. Uncle and Aunt Li of the Li family have been favoring boys over girls for so long, how could they change their attitude so easily? Maybe it's even worse. Yunxi's face turned cold, and with two loud bangs, she opened the door bolt. It only took a moment to open the door bolt, but she deliberately slowed down her movements and deliberately made the sound louder. She just hoped that what she did would have some effect. If Uncle and Aunt Li of the Li family had any shame, they would always be cautious when they saw someone coming out and would not continue to beat Dia. It took her almost 3 minutes to open the door, and when she walked out, there was no one at the door of the Li family. After listening carefully, she heard no more scolding or beating, so she went up the mountain with a gloomy face. She didn't bring many arrows with her this time, because she didn't go up the mountain for hunting. She went there to practice her skills and vent her frustration. She found her problem when she fought with the wild boar king last time. She couldn't run fast in the mountains. When the wild boar chased her, it ran so fast that when she hid, she had to find the right position, otherwise she would accidentally slip and fall. If she ran into a tiger next time, she wouldn't be able to take shortcuts. Running up and down the mountain, running back and forth for 20 laps, the sun was about to set. When Yunxi was panting and walking home, she saw a mushroom squatting on the ground in the distance. She was stunned for a moment, and when she got closer, she found that it was Dia squatting on the ground. Dia, you? She smiled and patted Dia's shoulder, but when she was halfway through her words, she saw Dia looking up and suddenly got stuck. Dia's face was swollen. Her originally white and tender face with a little baby fat turned into a big round face. Yunxi gasped. Did the uncle and aunt of the Li family beat Dia again? Pulling her into the house, she searched around the house and finally found the ointment to reduce the swelling. Dia, I bought this ointment from Dr. Sun before. Apply a little on your face before going to bed. It should be better tomorrow. Dia lowered her head and took the ointment, thanked her, and her voice was as small as a mosquito. Yunxi was a little helpless. He guessed that she didn't want to mention her parents, so he smiled and teased her. Look at you, did you sneak out to find honey again, and you were stung like this? Dia clenched the ointment in her hand and responded softly after a while. Yeah. The two sat there stupidly for a while, and the sky became darker. After seeing off Dia with a sad face, Yunxi sighed deeply. After all, the uncle and aunt of the Leaf family are Dia's parents. In this era of filial piety, no one can say they are wrong when they beat and scold Dia. She can only give Dia some medicine after being beaten, but she can't help much. After that, Yunxi went out to exercise every day, and she also took down all kinds of prey she encountered. Just like that, a month passed. This morning, Dia suddenly found her crying. Yunxi, she lay on the table, crying uncontrollably. Yunxi frowned. What the hell did the uncle and aunt of the Leaf family do again? During this period of time, she also figured out that the uncle and aunt of the Leaf family didn't come back to pick up Dia to the town on purpose. They returned to the village because they were unemployed. During this period of time, Dia was scolded every day and beaten many times. On average, she was beaten every 2 or 3 days. In just 1 month, the baby fat on Dia's face was gone, and she was as thin as a bamboo pole. Not only that, she couldn't smile on her face, and she was always timid when she saw people. Yunxi patted her back gently, coaxing her like a baby. Dia's mood gradually improved, and she sobbed and said, "My parents are going to marry me off." What? Yunxi was stunned for a moment, and then her face turned cold. Dia was only 11 years old. The angrier she was, the calmer she looked. Dia, did your parents say who they were going to marry you to? Dia shook her head. I only know the name of that person. I don't know anything else. As she spoke, she covered her face and cried again. My parents didn't let me go to the dance studio. When the master went to persuade them, they scolded the master, and they said that those dancers were not girls from good families. Chapter 21. Dia wants to run away. After some investigation, Yunxi finally got a general idea of the person that Li's parents were looking for, Dia's future husband. This man was 46 years old. One of his 2 previous wives died in childbirth, and the other was beaten to death by him when he was drunk. He likes gambling, drinking, and beating people after drinking. He currently lives on the rent of the 3 shops that his grandfather worked hard for. The above is what she found out about Dia's future husband. Playing, 46 years old. When Dia grows up and can marry, he will be over 50 years old. Needless to say about the shortcomings of the latter. Yunxi found Dia and told her all the news she had found out. As for what Dia would choose in the future, she didn't know. The next day, before dawn, there was a knock on the door outside. After waiting for a long time, the knocking did not stop. Yunxi had to get up from the bed, yawned and opened the door, and saw Dia standing at the door with red eyes. Just when he was about to ask her what she was doing so early, he saw that she was carrying a small gray package on her back. With a start, Yunxi woke up completely. She stuck her head out to look around and pulled Dia into the house. Dia, do you want to sneak away? She looked at Dia seriously, her eyes full of shock. Dia's hand holding the package tightened, her face turned pale, and she looked like she was going to die bravely. Yunxi, do you want to go to town with me? Dia, calm down first. Yunxi patted her arm and told her not to be impulsive. Even if your parents want you to get married, they won't let you get married immediately. You are still young now. I didn't expect Dia to want to sneak away. Running away seems to be a good choice, but it is not at all. Even with her current strength, she dare not stay in the mountains all the time, let alone Dia. Dia has never even learned any combat skills. Letting her run away alone is like sending food to a tiger's mouth. And she took the initiative to send it. But, my parents said they will send me to that family in 5 days. Dia lowered her head, her eyes full of fear and uneasiness. Yunxi choked. Who knew there were such unrefined parents? She crossed her arms and pondered. Right, suddenly, her eyes rolled and she snapped her fingers. I've got it. It's almost dawn. You can make some osmanthus cakes and send them to the villagers later. Grandma Li's other dishes are very ordinary, but the osmanthus cake is quite good, and the level is comparable to her mother's. Dia has inherited Grandma Li's true skills, and the osmanthus cake is quite good. When you send them over, say goodbye to them as I taught you. Remember not to cry. But to smile, not like this. Just smile like this, just raise the corners of your mouth a little bit. Village chief, I will be leaving the village in a few days. This is a little gift from me. Thank you for taking care of me all these years. Daya held a box of osmanthus cake in both hands. Her pale and thin face had red eyes and her lips were slightly raised but trembling. Seeing such a scene, Yunxi couldn't help but applaud. Daya was really born in the wrong era. If she were in modern times, she would have won many awards for her acting skills. Seeing Daya's good performance, she quickly slipped away. It seemed that she didn't need to worry about what happened next. It took Daya a whole morning to run around the whole village and deliver osmanthus cake to every household. Afternoon. As soon as Daya returned home, she was scolded. You little girl, where were you this morning? You dared to be lazy. Do you think you're going to marry into the town soon, and you can bully us in the future? She was startled and subconsciously took a few steps back. However, she relaxed a little when she thought of what Yunxi said, that her parents wouldn't beat her during this period. She was about to explain. However, since Grandma Li was not there, the others were too lazy to listen to these nonsense. Shut up. So much nonsense. Don't you have so much work to do at home? Go wash the clothes. Daya was stunned, and walked downstream of the stream with a pile of clothes. She sighed in her heart, Yunxi is indeed the smartest person in the village. She said that her parents wouldn't beat her, and they really didn't come to beat her. Yunxi hid in the dark, secretly satisfied. So many clothes, enough for Daya to spend an afternoon by the stream. If Daya was not at home for the whole afternoon. Before long, the news that Daya was washing clothes by the stream spread throughout the village. Seeing that Daya was not at home, all the uncles and great-grandfathers in the village came to the Li family one by one. Some people advised gently. Daya is a good girl who works quickly and respects her elders. Isn't it good to have a pair of children to respect you? Don't do anything that will make you regret. There are also those with bad tempers. I see that your father is gone, so you think no one can take care of you, right? You are not so poor that you can't even afford to eat, but you actually want to sell your own daughter. What? Your daughter is not a human being. If you dare to send Daya to the old man, I will send your son out to be someone's son-in-law. Li and his wife were scolded for an afternoon, and their hatred for their annoying daughter soared. Finally, even the village chief came. Selling children is not popular in our village. If I know that you sent Daya away, you won't stay in our village at that time, right? At the end, his voice was almost ethereal. His voice was very light, as if he was asking for the opinions of the Li family, but his eyes were as if he was looking at a dead object. After all, he had been the village chief for many years, and when he was in full force, the Li family didn't even dare to breathe hard. After sending the village chief away, Daya also came back after washing clothes. The Li couple wanted to strangle their daughter to death, but they had just been warned by the elders in the village, so they didn't dare to do anything more. They simply drove her to chop wood, and out of sight, out of mind. Li was very unwilling. After losing his job in the town, he could only think of other ways to make money. It happened that the neighbors heard that their family had a daughter, so they introduced them. If they successfully sent their daughter away, the family could get 10 taels of silver. 10 taels. With the silver, the tuition for their son's study next year will be enough. Who knew that the people in the village had to meddle in other people's business? It's really annoying. Yunxi couldn't help but curl the corners of his lips when he heard the Li family next door close the door and hide in the house to curse secretly. After Daya's matter came to an end, she returned to her original hunting life. In just 1 month, she had summed up the rules. She only wanted to say, system, yides. With a system, not only can you see the health of the prey, but the prey will also be refreshed continuously, so there is no need to worry about destroying them. From now on, she can squat at the foot of the mountain and wait for the harvest of rabbits. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Cherish Your Time. On StarNet, the #1 hot search exploded. The first large-scale holographic online game Ancient created by the First Game Company is about to be launched. Now it is hotly recruiting for internal testing. Stay tuned. When netizens saw the news of the first hot search, they quickly clicked in to join in the fun, but found that there was nothing except the launch time, and they immediately talked about it. Did the first game company buy the hot search? I don't know how many holographic games have been released in the past few years, and this hot search is still bragging about the first one. It is indeed the first time that the first game company has made a large-scale holographic online game. There is nothing wrong with it. I don't know what type of game it is. Don't tell me it's another Interstellar Voyage or Interstellar War. I'm tired of playing these games. I heard that the game made this time is different from the previous games. It is made according to the information of ancient planets excavated by historians. Whether it is architecture or star beasts, they are all ancient. The people above are the water army hired by the game company. If you want to make a game according to historical data, how much information do you have to find? We don't understand a lot of information ourselves, let alone making a holographic game, which requires a lot of information. Also, I'm a student of the history department of Imperial Capital University, and I've been verified with my real name. There were no star beasts in ancient times, only wild beasts. Some people are looking forward to the game that the game company said was made according to the real information of ancient people. Some people don't care at all, and some people sneer at it. But no matter what, the game Ancient is popular. Almost all interstellar people have heard of this game and have joined the competition. Generally speaking, those who have obtained the qualification for internal testing will not have their game warehouses taken back after the internal testing is over. After the game is officially launched, you can continue to play the game with the test warehouse. So in order to play the game for free, even if you have to write a 100,000-word internal test evaluation, many people have joined the competition. After all, if you want to buy a game warehouse by yourself, the price of a game warehouse is about several million, which is not something that ordinary people can afford. At the same time, in the first game company, the R&D department was busy. Hurry! I forgot to adjust the time before. If the time is 1-to-1, many people will not be able to go online during the day, the president said gloomily. Fortunately, the internal test warehouse has not been sent out. If the problem is found after it is sent out, our company will become a joke in the industry. The R&D manager was busy sweating. He had to apologize to the president one moment and go to see how the test was going on with his subordinates the next. He wished he could grow 3 heads and 6 arms. Strange. It's really strange. Although no one in the village noticed it and lived the same as before, Yunxi still clearly noticed that something was wrong. In her previous life, she never doubted that there would be a problem with time, but since she came to this immortal world that had lost its spiritual energy, she began to believe in these more fantasy things. For example, time will become faster. At this time, Yunxi sat quietly at home, looking at the training records in her hand, her eyes full of confusion. During this period, she would make records every day, record the training content of the whole day, and then throw them into the space. After solving Daya's problem, she trained for 29 days until yesterday, and today is the 30th day. However, the villagers said that it has been 2 months since Daya's incident. At first, Yunxi also suspected that she had traveled to 2 months later after waking up from a sleep, or that the villagers were joking with her. Or maybe she had lost her memory. But today, she was sure that it was not her problem, but the time problem. She walked to the yard in 2 steps and looked at the sky outside. It was just dawn, but after she walked to the middle of the yard, it suddenly became sunny. She looked up and found that the sky was gradually getting darker, and the stars were twinkling in the night sky. Yunxi. In less than 3 minutes, it went from sunrise to nightfall. This is why she didn't go up the mountain today. Just look up and you will understand that there is nothing wrong with her. Just as she was thinking, the sky was bright again. Looking at the sun rising and setting above, she held her forehead speechlessly and hurried back to the house, out of sight, out of mind. Opening her space bracelet, she looked through notes left by her ancestors one by one, trying to find out why the time outside was getting faster. This world of immortal cultivation is indeed different. Even if it was just the world of immortal cultivation in the past, even time can change. I just don't know what impact it will have on her life. Looking at the constantly changing day and night outside, she retracted her sight, ate her meal and fell asleep. After all, she had no other choice in this situation. She didn't know what to do except sleep. If she woke up and it still changed like this, she would try to adapt to it. Wake up. Yunxi looked at the sky outside that finally stabilized, and her heart was so happy that she almost flew up. Fortunately, she didn't think about how to adapt to the sky that was sometimes dark and sometimes white last night, otherwise she would have wasted her time. When she woke up today, wouldn't it be back to normal? Yunxi ate breakfast happily, took her bow and arrow, and was about to go out. When she opened the door, she saw Grandma Li standing at the door. She was startled and patted her chest. "You scared me. Grandma Li, why are you here?" After all, it was Grandma Li who often took care of her, so she quickly invited her into the house. "Grandma, have some tea." Fortunately, when her mother taught her to make tea, she also learned it, otherwise she really didn't know how to entertain guests now. "I wonder why you came today." Grandma Li glanced at her and nodded secretly. "Yunxi, when your parents were still alive, they helped us a lot. Now it's my turn to help you." Grandma Li held her hand and patted the back of her hand gently with a kind face. Yunxi had a bad feeling in her heart. The appearance of Grandma Li overlapped with the face of the relative who urged her to get married in the previous life. Is it an illusion? "I came here to ask clearly first." Grandma Li approached her and whispered, "What do you think of your future husband, Yunxi?" "I don't have any ideas. I'm still young. Why should I rush to find a partner?" Before she finished her words, she was interrupted by Grandma Li. She shook her head in disapproval. You don't understand now. You are 14 years old, and you should have been dating a long time ago. When you were 11 years old, you said you were still young and didn't want to think about it, so I let you have fun at home, but now you are 14 years old. It's time to date. If you have any requirements, just tell Grandma. I will try my best to find someone you like." 14 years old, Yunxi didn't care about what Grandma Li said about helping him find a partner, but the 14 years old made her jump in shock. "Grandma, are you mistaken? How can I be 14? I remember I'm less than 12 years old." "Yunxi, are you too confused? You don't even remember your own age. You are the same age as Dabao and Daya. How could I remember it wrong?" Grandma Li looked at her with a caring face. "I will also start to match Dabao and Daya." Seeing that her grandma was looking at her like a fool, Yunxi twitched her eyes. However, Grandma Li looked very confident. Yunxi felt a little uneasy. In other words, the sleep she had last night, day and night turned over, and almost 3 years had passed in a flash. Is this really possible? With a last bit of doubt, she casually dealt with Grandma Li for a few words, and then she sent her away and opened the system panel. However, even the age on the system panel was 14. Good guy. She was only 12 years old at most, and suddenly she became 14 years old. No wonder everyone said that we should cherish time. Isn't it necessary to cherish it? 3 years passed in the blink of an eye, and she did nothing in these years and wasted them. Chapter 23 The Strange Thief. Yunxi came to the foot of the mountain and found her usual position to squat. The position she chose was very clever. There was a huge rock in front and a big tree behind, which just covered her figure. In fact, she spent a lot of time and repeatedly changed places to find this position. Every time she shot a rabbit here, she would wait for 30 seconds, and a new rabbit would appear here. Before, she took out the rabbit meat she shot to make jerky. She ate jerky every day. At first, she thought it tasted good, but now she is tired of it. She plans to shoot more rabbits and make other dishes. Thinking of this, she quickly covered her mouth, barely suppressed the corners of her mouth, and squatted seriously. However, 1 minute, 2 minutes, a quarter of an hour passed, but she still didn't wait for the rabbit. Yunxi poked her head out in confusion. Why didn't I see the rabbit today? Did they find out that she was squatting on them? Seeing that the sun was getting bigger and bigger, but still couldn't wait for the prey, she had to walk up the mountain. When she reached the middle of the mountain, she finally found the figure of the hare. Her eyes lit up, and she shot an arrow instantly. An hour later, Yunxi returned home exhausted. Instead of dealing with the prey, she cleaned the wound first, sprinkled it with a golden wound medicine made by her mother, and then fell directly on the bed. Hateful hare. When she went out hunting before, except for being a little flustered at the beginning, after she got used to it, even wild boars couldn't hurt her, let alone this hare. But for some reason, the hare today is different from the past. It seems to be more flexible. It was because I misjudged its attack route that I missed it. Later I was even injured. It took an hour to fight wits and courage with a hare today. She closed her eyes with a depressed heart and prepared to sleep first. At this time, She just thought it was a coincidence and didn't take it to heart. A month later, Yunxi stood in the field, looking at the gradually decreasing number of field mice, but her face was a little solemn. Yunxi, what's wrong with you? The voles are about to be wiped out. Are you unhappy? Dia was excited, and when she turned around and saw her frowning face, she was suddenly a little worried. No, she smiled at Dia's cautious eyes. I was just thinking about something else. After coaxing Dia, her heart became heavier and heavier. She deeply felt the meaning of the saying, a blessing in disguise. The world is changing. The villagers have become like ordinary people and can communicate, but the animals have also become like real animals. The animals before could be hunted in any way and would never become extinct, and each animal had its own fixed route. After getting used to it, it was easy to predict their actions. At that time, hunting was quite easy for her. But now, if you hunt without restraint, you may really make the animals extinct. Of course, hunting has also become difficult. Every animal has become extremely flexible, and it is very difficult to predict their actions. Yunxi pondered. Otherwise, she might as well change her career. Hunters are too dangerous. Of course, this is just a joke. Although hunters are dangerous, this skill is too great for her who lives in ancient times. On this day, Yunxi fought wits and courage with various animals in the mountains, and had a great time. When she went down the mountain, there were a lot of prey piled up in her space, and she was holding a hare in her hand. After all, she always has to pretend. If she throws everything in the space, won't others suspect that she has a problem? However, when she got down to the foot of the mountain, her steps paused and her eyes narrowed. The originally empty foot of the mountain actually had a lot of strangers. They wore the same style of gray shorts and straw sandals, which seemed normal at first glance. But a closer look at their behavior. A sturdy man squatted on the ground, looking at the weeds on the ground with shining eyes, stretched out his hand to pull them, and then stuffed them into his mouth, looking very relishing. A thin man next to him was staring at the caterpillars on the leaves, his eyes almost close to them, and he kept muttering something. There was also someone who stretched out his hand to grab a handful of dirt and stuffed it into his mouth, and then spit it out. Yunxi took a look and hurried home. If it were modern times, she might suspect that the patients in the mental hospital had escaped. But this is ancient times. Maybe they were just passers-by? Thinking of the rules of the village, she suspected that these people were also driven out of their own village, and then they had been living outside, and their brains were not working well. At this time, she was still sympathizing with the people outside. I don't know how much I will want to slap them to death in the future. Yunxi sat at home, the embroidery needle in her hand was flying, looking very quiet and elegant. In fact, her mind was only half on the embroidery in her hand, and the other half was in the yard. About a few minutes later, with a loud clang, a person fell from the wall to the ground. Here it comes again. She calmly put down the embroidery needle in her hand and walked slowly towards the direction where the sound came from. Her movements were neither hurried nor slow, and she looked very elegant. Oh my God! There is something round on this tree. Could it be the legendary fruit? The daring little thief looked at the fruit tree in the yard with a greedy look on his face, and didn't notice Yunxi who had walked out. Seeing that the little thief not only didn't pay attention to her, the owner of the house, but was also preparing to climb up the tree, Yunxi picked up the fire stick she brought with her and hit him hard. The thief covered his buttocks, hid far away, and looked at her vigilantly. Who are you? Why did you hit me suddenly? She smiled kindly. You came to my house to steal things, but you don't even know who I am. Are the thieves nowadays so uncivilized? They don't even ask, what? This is your house. Ouch, it hurts. Stop it. The man was shocked and was about to say something, but he was beaten before he could say anything. He screamed in pain and dodged everywhere. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I didn't know this was your house. Oh. Do you mean that you can run into other people's houses? She still smiled gently, but waved the fire stick in her hand fiercely. The thief wanted to resist at first, but soon he was beaten and cried for his parents, and fled everywhere. I was wrong. Let me go. And, I won't dare to do it again. However, Yunxi sneered, and her hands were still unceremonious. She no longer believed their lies. Ever since she came back from hunting that day, someone broke into her house almost every day. At first, she was still in the morning and heard some noises. When she got up, she found someone climbing over the wall. At that time, She thought it was an accident. The second time, when she was cooking, someone suddenly broke into her house and shouted it smells so good, which scared her. There were countless similar things. Later, no matter whether she was embroidering, practicing martial arts, or even taking a bath, someone would suddenly break in. She had had enough. Chapter 24, Audacity. If Yunxi believes them again, there must be something fishy going on. Every time they say they know they are wrong, someone will break in next time. The first few times she saw them apologize, she let them go easily, but after that, everyone who broke in received a lesson. Now that she has beaten them so many times, she has even developed a feel for it, and can beat this little thief while thinking about other things. Ling. Congratulations on creating your own fire stick fighting method, and gain 1000 experience points. Auntie, what do you want to do to let me go? The system's voice sounded, and Yunxi's hand paused. Fire stick fighting method. She twitched her eyes. Could she give it a more domineering name? The little thief didn't know why she suddenly stopped, but she was still so happy that she cried, and she didn't dare to say much and ran away with her butt covered. Yunxi glanced at the thief's fleeing back, and was too lazy to chase him. After all, they had been fighting for a whole morning, and it was time for lunch. Afternoon. Yunxi went out to relax for a rare time. When she passed by the village chief's house, she saw the villagers surrounding the village chief's house. It looked very lively. She curiously looked over and could only see a crowd of people. Is this an event? Village chief, there are a lot of strangers in the village recently. They are wandering around the village every day. Someone even robbed the fruit I picked for my daughter. My daughter is afraid to go out, that's right. They always climb over the wall and run into my house. I have to stay at home every day and can't go out to work, everyone complained. In the end, they became more and more angry, and the villagers shouted, drive them out. Drive them out. Yunxi was busy fighting thieves during this period and had not been out. Only then did she know that such a thing had happened in the whole village. The village chief rubbed his brows and shouted with a headache, quiet. Everyone listened to me. After the villagers gradually quieted down, he explained, in fact, these people are adventurers. They are here to help us. They run around and take things because they are ignorant, so they are so excited. You talk to them nicely, and they will listen. Yunxi. Help. How come she doesn't know that she needs help? Moreover, the word adventurer doesn't sound like a word that would appear in ancient times. Also, saying that these people are ignorant, this excuse is too blunt. No matter how ignorant they are, they wouldn't just chew a leaf raw, right? However, the villagers actually believed Yunxi's explanation, which sounded like nonsense. They usually dispersed, discussing, the adventurers are too pitiful, they haven't even eaten wild fruits. I'll ask them to help me with some chores later, and I'll send them some wild fruits. Hey? Is this possible? Then my house should be repaired. I'll ask them to repair the roof later, and I'll send them some firewood. Lu's family. Yunxi stood in the yard, looking at the adventurers who were busy at home, and fell into deep thought. Someone was chopping wood, although the firewood flew everywhere. Someone was cooking for her in the kitchen, although in the end only a black mess was cooked. Someone was helping her water, although it was weeds. Looking at the adventurers who were helping her with a serious face, she finally believed what the village chief said. Yes, they came to help, although they were making things worse. The village chief said that they were ignorant, which was absolutely right. Looking at the people who had been struggling, she took a deep breath, put her hands on her hips and shouted, stop. Come over here. Soon, the adventurers in front of her lined up neatly. All of them were covered in dust, but their eyes were shining as they looked at her. Yunxi twitched her lips and reluctantly praised them a few words. You did a good job. You have completed today's tasks. This is your reward. Take it home. After that, she distributed the wild vegetables she had picked in the system backpack to the few people. That's right. A few days ago, she finally understood how to use the system backpack. After putting things in the system backpack, they can only be given to adventurers, and she can't take them out to use. Fortunately, there is nothing good in the system backpack, otherwise she must be upset. After sending the adventurers away, Yunxi was about to go to sleep when she heard a scream that resounded through the sky. Catch the thief. Almost subconsciously, Yunxi picked up the fire stick and ran out. When she came out, she saw an ant from the village holding a kitchen knife, chasing an adventurer frantically. She sighed secretly. Why did someone want to break a model of cooperation between adventurers and villagers established by the village chief? She yelled, and with a seemingly casual wave of the fire stick in her hand, she stopped the man tightly. Who are you? Mind your own business. The thief was a tall and strong man. He roared in a rough voice, and then waved his hand, trying to push her away. However, Yunxi stood firmly in place, and the fire stick in his hand did not move at all. Man? He bulged his strong muscles and rushed towards her. Yunxi raised her eyebrows, flashed lightly, and then pressed the man's hand back with a backhand. The man screamed in pain and was pressed to the ground by her. Like a flipped turtle, he couldn't escape. What did you steal? Hand it over. The ant whose things were stolen also caught up at this time, hesitantly. Yunxi. Can we find a place where there is no one? Yunxi looked at her aunt's mysterious look and felt a strange feeling. Lu's house. The aunt carefully put away the things stolen by the thief, her cheeks slightly red. Thank you so much this time. Yunxi, that you? Yunxi suppressed her anger and smiled. The thief stole the kitchen knife from your house and the embroidery from my house. I caught him and got all the things back. The aunt breathed a sigh of relief and showed a bright smile. Thank you so much this time. Yunxi, if you have any problems in the future, come to your aunt. After sending away the grateful aunt, Yunxi's face was frosty. Originally, the village had returned to peace. The adventurers worked and the villagers gave things. She hadn't beaten anyone for a long time. But this guy really deserves to die. You are such a great guy. You steal people's things everywhere. She slapped him in the face. This guy actually stole my aunt's menstrual belt. A menstrual belt. Fortunately, she got it back. If other people knew about it, my aunt's life would be miserable in the future. You hit me. The thief looked at her sudden anger and widened his eyes. What's wrong with hitting you? Yunxi sneered. Since he had the guts to steal a menstrual belt, he should have known what would happen when he was caught. What the hell is he pretending to be now? After beating him up, Yunxi sent the man to the village chief. Village chief, this guy stole the embroidery my mother left for me. He is so bold. What do you say we should do with him? Chapter 25. The game is real. On the way to send the thief to the village chief's house, Yunxi finally figured out that this stupid thief didn't know what he stole. He accidentally saw when he was squatting on a tree that his aunt took out a menstrual belt secretly while the family was away, washed it carefully and hung it in the back of the yard. Seeing his aunt's cautious appearance, he mistakenly thought that the menstrual belt was a particularly precious treasure, so he stole it when no one was paying attention. After learning the truth, Yunxi was speechless. Of course I treasure it. Do you know how rare our cloth is? Everyone only has one set of clothes at most. Even the cloth used to wipe the table is very rare. Every household has only one piece. Not only the rag, but also firewood, food, and even the firewood stick are all very precious. Do you understand? A broken home is worth a fortune. Yunxi showed a strange smile. If you come to the village to steal things next time, I will sell you for money. Anyway, I have wanted to change the things at home for a long time. The little thief saw her smile and got goosebumps all over his body. He begged for mercy. Auntie, I won't dare to do it again. How could I know that you are living such a miserable life? She said shut up in a cold voice, and the two of them happened to come to the village chief's house. Village chief, this person actually stole things. What do you say we should do? The village chief looked at Yunxi dragging a man over with a confused face. He twitched his lips and glanced at the gloomy Yunxi. He felt that she looked more like a bad person than the bruised man on the ground. He looked at the man with some embarrassment, not sure what to do. After all, this is the first time a thief has been caught in the village in so many years. Although the people in the village were noisy before, there was no petty theft. But he has to be sent to the government office. The journey to the government office is long and dangerous. Just for such an insignificant person, the young people in the village risk being targeted by tigers and send him all the way to the town. This is not okay. After thinking for a long time, the village chief reluctantly thought of a solution. How about throwing him in my family's woodshed and starving him for 3 days, and then driving him out of the village? Yunxi was about to nod when he heard this, but suddenly thought of something and shook his head quickly. No. Village chief, these adventurers always come to steal things. We must control them. The thief caught this time can be used as an example to scare the monkeys. The village chief was stunned for a moment, and then smiled meaningfully. The two of them discussed in whispers. Everyone, Go and see. The village chief caught a little thief and said he would punish him. Why should we follow him? Does he want us to help eat him? The villagers whispered and walked towards the village entrance. Many adventurers saw a large group of villagers walking towards the village entrance, and they couldn't help but follow them curiously. At the village entrance, the village chief stood in the middle of the village entrance, with a tall wooden frame next to him. When all the villagers arrived, adventurers who saw this scene basically came to join in the fun. The village chief cleared his throat and said in a serious tone, "Everyone, be quiet. I asked you to come here today because I caught a thief. I let bygones be bygones when someone stole something before." After all, the adventurers didn't know the rules of the village at that time. The village chief said in a serious tone, "But it's been so long, and I've said everything I should say. Now he's still stealing things. We won't allow such a rat shit to exist in our village." Everyone looked up at the village chief. "So today, I specially asked you to come and see the punishment this person will receive." The village chief turned his head and gave Yunxi a look. Yunxi quickly hung the thief on the wooden rack, like drying bacon. "This is the punishment for stealing in the village." The village chief gestured to everyone to look at the thief hanging there. "He will be hung here for 3 days. During these 3 days, no one is allowed to give him food. Otherwise, he will be hung here with him. Do you understand?" The villagers shouted in unison. "Understood." The adventurers' faces changed one after another, sometimes blue and sometimes purple, as if paint had been spilled. Until the afternoon of 3 days later. When Yunxi was playing chess with the village chief, an adventurer suddenly came up to her hesitantly. "I have something to say in advance." She was about to avoid him, but the village chief waved his hand at her. She paused for a moment, but decided to listen to the village chief and sat down with peace of mind. "What's the matter?" The village chief turned his head and looked at the adventurer. His tone was very calm. The adventurer closed his eyes, with a look of fearlessness. "That village chief, the thief at the entrance of the village, wasn't he put down today?" The village chief was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly remembered that there was a person hanging outside. "Yes. I almost forgot. Thanks to you for reminding me. If you are free, please help put him down." The adventurer breathed a sigh of relief and ran out in a hurry. At the entrance of the village, the thief who was almost dried into bacon was finally put down. He cried out and hugged his friend's thigh tightly like a baby. There was no villager at the moment, and all the people watching were adventurers. They felt the same way and gave the thief a sympathetic look. On the Star Internet, the news of the first game company once again became a hot search. The large-scale holographic imitation Ancient game, Ancient, will be officially launched in a month. The internal test of Ancient has ended. What exactly moved the internal testers to tears? A history professor at a certain college publicly praised the first game company for respecting history. The reason why this game can become a hot search is that other games are gradually declining, and this game is in a field that no one has done before, otherwise it would not be so popular. Major game companies are paying close attention to the news on the internet. After all, the games made now are all the same, netizens are less interested, and the company's revenue has been declining year by year. Once this kind of imitation Ancient game can also sell well, they must also take advantage of this favorable trend to seize a wave of the market. And those who really want to play games, after purchasing the game cabin, while the game cabin has not been delivered yet, they quickly open the forum to see if anyone has summarized their experience. At this time, the people who were active in the forum were all internal testers, and the posts they posted were all kinds of strange, which was very confusing. The game is really real. You must take the initiative to ask if there are any tasks, otherwise the NPC will not take the initiative to issue tasks to you. Be careful of NPCs, some NPCs will trick you into doing work for nothing. Personal experience, after completing the task, the NPC didn't give me anything and kicked me out. Everyone must find a good master to learn from in the novice village. Some masters ask you to do chores for them every day and don't teach you anything. Don't ask me why I know. You can't change people if you worship the wrong master. There is no interstellar travel in the game. You have to walk to go out, and you must increase your physical strength at the beginning, when everyone's hunger is at the bottom. Don't pick wild vegetables and fruits everywhere by yourself. Try to eat those given by NPCs, otherwise you may be poisoned. Other people's novice villages have mountains and water, and our novice village is surrounded by icebergs. I almost froze to death when I entered. Netizens were very happy to eat melons. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.